waiting for our live video to start.
Second.
We're waiting for our Facebook Live to start. It did start. Okay, now we're live.
All right, I think we're ready to get started. If everyone will stand, Commissioner Jensen, lead us through prayer, followed by pledge.
Father, we thank you for this hour. We thank you for this opportunity. We bless your name because your name worthy to be blessed. Father, we do ask right now, forgive us for our sins, and we forgive those who trespass against us. Father, we ask right now as we go through this meeting, we do what's best for our citizens. Father, it's nothing personal, but it is business. And we thank you for what you're going to do. We thank you for your guidance right now. Then help us as we make these decisions, Lord, that we be satisfied, that you be satisfied. And we thank you again. Help us, Father. Help us as you've done in the past. And we thank you now for what you're going to do. These blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Line unmuted.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone to our meeting this Monday, December the 1st, 2025 at 6 p.m. We have a conference line set up. Number there is 1917-900-1022. Access code 32347#. This is not a toll-free number, and you may be subject to long-distance charges according to your long-distance plan. When the chairperson opens the meeting for public comment, please follow the below instructions. If you wish to speak, please dial *5. The moderator will unmute your line when it's your turn to speak and notify you by announcing the last 4 digits of your telephone number. Please announce your name and address. You will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Any person wishing to address the board regarding an agenda item will be given 3 minutes for comment. A commenter may only speak 1 time for each agenda item. With that said, we will move on to item 3. Did everyone see the amended agenda for item 30?
Man, yes, sir.
Everyone, this time we'll obtain a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Commissioner Jensen, second by Commissioner Spiegel. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move on to our consent items. Everyone have a chance to look over your consent items. You got any questions or discussion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Spiegel to approve, second by Commissioner Moody. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll move on to item 11 under bids and public hearings. Under 11, the board to receive public input regarding what materials will be accepted at Taylor County rural sites in Taylor County, set for this date at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible. So, our last meeting, I'll just kind of catch us up here. At our last meeting, we were discussing the roll-off sites and the materials to be brought in and different ways to manage the type materials that come into the roll-off site, overall versus what the roll-off site were set up 4 years ago to today. We've just been taking any and everything. Your contractors bringing any and everything in, and I think Commissioner Spiegel had mentioned putting it on the agenda for the public input. So that's what this meeting is for. That's what this item is for public input on our roll-off sites. So if there's nothing from the board at this moment, we'll take some public input on the waste brought into our roll-off sites. We have anyone from the public? Come on.
Michelle Curtis, 5135 Preston Sheffield Road. My only question is, with the damage from the storms, we're continuing to see that on the trees. As you can see going up Highway 221, dead trees in everybody's yard, and we've got to get them taken out. So we have to find a way to dispose of those. And so my request would be that you allow us to bring them to the roll-off sites. And I know I had talked with Commissioner Spiegel in the past, and she had mentioned that there was a 4-inch diameter limit, I believe, and that's there's so much wood that's dead and dying in people's yards that's much larger than that. So we need a little help. How are we gonna deal with that in individual yards?
And I think it was also, some of the discussion around this topic was, identification cards for folks coming in. I know we had cards and stickers in the past, and, I've heard a bunch of different, opinions on, whether it's right or wrong, or what to do and how to regulate Taylor County citizens, to be able to, only Taylor County citizens to be able to dump at these roll-off sites. Because in certain areas of the county, we are getting, we're getting neighboring counties, citizens coming to our roll-off sites. And, not all of them, but some of these county lines, we are getting, citizens from other counties bringing some of their waste in. So, and I think you did some of the discussion around the cards and the stickers was to try to help regulate Taylor County citizens. And, I think we've had some, contractor use of these, bringing large items in here that maybe the roll-off sites was not set up for years in the past. So that's what this meeting is, to receive some, public input. And I've heard, maybe presenting a driver's license, at the roll-off sites. So, anyone else? Come on, Jay.
James Boston, 1869 Pisgah Road. I kind of not particularly well prepared. I really wanted to hear other people's comments. I do agree with the fact we need appropriate ways to take off large trees. The roll-off sites are definitely not set up for doing that. By the name roll-off site, we can no longer roll off anything that weighs enough that you can't pick it up over a trailer and throw it away anyway. But as far as the cards, I've had absolutely no problems with anyone at any of the roll-off sites that I visit. They've been very professional and helpful. But I only hear other people's feedback about being turned away. I don't know if that's true because they didn't have a card. Is that true that people are being turned away for not having a card?
I've had feedback from some that were turned away for not having, but it wasn't negative feedback. I would say it wasn't negative that they were turned away, that the folks were appreciative of the attendants for doing their job. And they did go and get a card, and they came back to the roll side and turned their way.
But in short, my suggestion, a person bringing a bag of trash, I don't know that I'd necessarily be so adamant they had to have a card. Maybe a person bringing a whole trailer full of debris, that might be appropriate before you can use the roll-off cans, the big cans, to dispose of something. You have to have a card. But, someone has loaded up a bag of old fish in the back of their Ford Fiesta and closed the door, and they get there and they can't get rid of their trash. That's kind of wrong to me. Very limited feedback. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
We appreciate that. And Michelle, in reference to the, talking about some of the dead trees, even trees like this in general, I know I've mentioned numerous times, I know we have the incinerator, correct, Gary, out at the Hampton Springs site. And I've mentioned it numerous times, is there any reason that we can't have citizens take debris like such trees to the incinerator to have it disposed of there?
The issue is DEP and EPA. We can't burn them large amount because it has to be out by 4:30 in the afternoon. So if we put a large tree in there, and it won't be out by that time. So
I think it's more it's the size of
size
the,
of the material. we can't burn.
materials.
I'd like to speak to this whole issue, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that for a while we talked about this, and some people think there's a problem, and maybe there is a problem. And I think most of that has centered around contractors taking their C&D to the roll-offs. as far as cards or stickers or whatever, I don't care what we use. A card is fine with me, a sticker is fine with me, but where I stand on this is I would like to see no changes, okay? I know that our ordinance says no C and D, and I can't help but to think that however many years ago it was that someone passed that ordinance, I'm not sure how much thought went into that. We've been accepting C and D, and I think that if it's a contractor, I've got a solution for that. If it's a homeowner and they're tearing down and I used this example before, like a pump house or something like that, they should be able to go there and dump that off. So when I say I don't want to see any changes, if it means that we have to change our ordinance to accept C and D, then that's where I'm gonna be. And when I gave this a lot of thought, you know, of the cost of that and so forth. And I think that there's a solution to this problem without inhibiting our citizens from taking their C and D or whatever it is that they want to take there. They pay an annual fee, and so far they've been able to do that. And I'm not willing for us to say, well, we're going to stop that, and you're going to have to take all this stuff all the way to the landfill. And if we did that, if we said, okay, we're going to stop, and all you citizens have to take your C and D to the landfill, then we're going to have 20,000 people on the road to the landfill, except in Steehatchee and some of the far off places. These people are not going to drive to the landfill. And I don't blame them. I would not drive an hour and a half to take something off that I've been paying for and accustomed to taking to the roll-off. So the way to solve this problem, in my opinion, is accept all C and D. But when someone comes up here to the building department and they want to get a building permit, go ahead and charge them for the C and D, whatever that estimated cost will be, because you know if you're building a house or if you're building something, you're going to have C and D. So why not charge for that up front, go ahead and get the money, and then let everybody take what they want to the roll-off. And then you wouldn't have to worry about the attendants trying to figure out, is this a contractor or is this not a contractor? Or is this somebody that maybe one of your relatives you've asked to take your stuff off, or whatever it is. There'd be no questions asked, and you get the money up front. And I think that that's a more efficient way to run government, rather than to ask our citizens to be running up and down to Greenville. Just think about the inconvenience of that and the fact that they're already paid, then they'd have to buy gas and take their time to go to Greenville. That's my proposal to fix this.
Yeah, Commissioner, not only would they run to Greenville, but I think we've already saw, or it's been demonstrated that citizens are gonna just dump it beside the road.
That's right. That's
I mean,
exactly right.
It's already happened that they're gonna dump it beside the road because they're not gonna go to Greenville, but, you know, I know we've talked this numerous times and haven't, never really come to a good solution, and maybe there's not really no change to make, but I do see that most of the problem has been driven around storms, holidays, maybe after holidays, and even when we've been short on trucks. So as long as we've got all of our trucks running, I mean, we don't even know, because I think with the last storms and the holidays that we experienced, we probably didn't have all of our trucks running at that time. Because I know we were using capacity from a neighboring county.
Well,
And you have to remember that storm debris is handled differently, so,
I understand, but I would say that.
but there's some
probably
residual.
Not all storm debris went where it should have went, and some of that storm debris probably was taken to our roll-off sites. So during the heat of the moment, things were going on, so, I'd say where I see the biggest, where I have heard the biggest issue, and I saw the biggest issue has been wrapped around, we did have 3 major hurricanes in the last year and a half, going on 2 years. And then after holidays, and then when we've had driver or truck shortages, I saw that we did have issues during those times as well, but. And the issues meaning the cans getting full at the roll-off sites, and turning people away from dumping, but to my knowledge, it seems that things, once we've gotten all of our drivers, that we hadn't really, I hadn't even heard of an issue coming out of this Thanksgiving that we just had. So, but go ahead, Mike.
I think what the problem is, I've run into it, I got turned away twice. First time I carried a mixed load of stuff, a vacuum cleaner, some trash, some other stuff, turned away and told me it was storm damage. So and that was at Harrison Blue. They refused to take it, so I carried it to Carlton and they took it. So I had to waste my time to go to 2 different places because of somebody's interpretation. The second time, they told me that Carlton was full. Well, I may have fell off the cabbage truck yesterday, but I can look over there and see a dumpster and nothing sticking out of the top of it, and it don't look full. So I had to go to Carlton again. So I think you got a problem with some of your people working these sites and just want to interpret those rules different ways. I ain't told the guy, I said, this is not storm damage. It's just a mixed load. You tell me where you want me to put the metal, and I'll separate it. No, I ain't taking it. That's storm damage. Refuse to take it.
If we followed my proposal, we won't have to worry about all of that. We're gonna take it and we're gonna get money up front. Now, this is the first time that I've really heard that storm debris was the biggest problem. I thought most of our dialogue had been around C and D being the biggest problem, but I'm not saying that we don't have a problem with storm debris, but that's, how many times is that compared to the complaints that we've heard here of C and D?
The storm damage was all dumped side the highway after the storm.
Yeah.
In the ditch. That was all storm damage. When
Right.
they finally got all that cleaned up, that was the end of the storm damage, you might as well call it.
But
Some
you-
people are still cutting trees, that got killed from the storm. Every now and then, they bring them to the dump. They stop putting them side the highway.
Yeah, well, Commissioner, I've heard you say many times, that the C and D is a problem, that you watched them come, and so I kind of concluded that overall, C and D was probably our biggest problem.
Well, contractors are a problem. When I see a contractor backed up there with a big trailer load of sheet rock, and, he's got his own tractor there with a front end loader on and unloading the sheet rock into the dumpster, that's a problem. That's the kind of thing I've seen, witnessed at my site several times, over the years. And, you see, some of them have signs on the door that says they are a contractor, some of them they got magnetic signs, they'll take them off. And that's just, but you can't depend on the employee to go there and look at a man and tell him he's a contractor or not.
No.
That won't work. And he can't make that decision, but I can't see letting, if nobody can judge what they are, everybody's gonna dump there, and they'll dump everything they want to there. There's got to be a happy medium somewhere.
Well, if someone comes there with the trailers, lots of C and D, as you've described, if we attach the fee onto the building permit, because they're fixing to build something and there's gonna be C and D, that takes care of that problem. Let the contractor bring it on as long as he's got the, as long as he's got something in his hand that says that this has been paid for when they got the building permit. Then we don't have to worry about that.
Well, they tell them to get a box dumpster when they're building a house or remodeling one, you know, and they tell them, saying, if you need to get one, they'll get one. As soon as they get going on their house, they'll call and cancel that dumpster. So you really hadn't done nothing telling them to get a dumpster if they're gonna call and cancel it before they ever get the house started.
But they're paying for
Well,
it.
that's,
They're paying for it, and so we're not gonna be losing money. I don't think we're losing money anyway.
In other words, you wanna charge them for a box dumpster
I
amount.
just wanna charge them whatever would be an estimated cost of what the C and D would be. And you know, whether that's $1,000, I don't know how much it is. It depends on, I guess, how big a job they're gonna have. But if they paid ahead of time, then we're good. We're good. And if somebody comes there with a load of stuff for construction and they don't have that permit, then no, they can't dump there.
and there's no reason why you can't send an employee to check, see if they got a dumpster.
Well, you could.
Yeah, that's how you gonna find out whether they got a dumpster or not. Somebody check.
I'm just afraid that, you know, if we stop our citizens who's paying for the services, they've been used to doing that. Number one, we're, like you said, Commissioner, we're gonna have a lot of stuff on the side of our highways. And number two, you're gonna have many people going up and down the road to Greenville and they're burning their gas and their time, and a lot of people don't have time to do that.
Now, it's gonna be even worse than that. They'll start filling the woods up.
Again,
They'll start filling the woods up.
yeah, they can't.
Anywhere they can go.
They didn't even go in the woods the other day. They come out of the dump when they didn't have a car. They dumped a whole trailer load in the ditch right there in front of the dump side of 30. Dumped the whole trailer load. I mean, a big trailer load. You could fill this room up right here. They dumped it off that trailer right there in the ditch. And we had to get our crew to go there and take a grapple and put it all in the dumpster and put it in the yard.
Well, I'd like to see us perhaps stay with the cars, change the color every year. And that's something that you have to present. We have to retrain our employees that, you know, you have to have a card. If they've got that card from somebody else, there's probably only a few people that do that. Nothing is gonna be 100%, but at least, you know, have them ask for that card and then attach a fee to a building permit to take care of all the C and D, leave everything the way it is.
Well, a sticker would solve a lot of problems. It's too easy to pass cards around like a
There might be some of
car.
that, like I say, you're not gonna be 100%.
It wouldn't be, but the sticker stuck on somebody's vehicle,
May not take the same vehicle each time.
you know, and if somebody's got 3 vehicles in their family, their children got vehicles, they can buy extra stickers for them, you know. I mean, it's just like a hunting club sticker. If you got extra trucks or extra ATVs, you have to get another sticker. You know, you pay the fee to get the extra sticker. It's not that big a fee for a sticker, they're not that expensive. And we need to change the sticker every year, because people sell trucks and they trade trucks and they get new windshields put on and one thing or another. But if we had the stickers only and had every year or every other year change the color of the sticker, it would make a big difference. It would take a lot of pressure off our employees at the dump site, trying to tell them, you know, argue with them about, well, most people tell, I left it at the house, I left the card at the house, but if they had a sticker on the truck, it wouldn't mean I'm leaving it at the house. You know.
I'm not gonna argue over a card or a sticker. To me, that's, you know, not worth an argument, but I think that whatever we decide to go with, the attendants have to make sure that they're checking that on everybody at every roll-off. And then, again, I'm 100% convinced that attaching a C and D fee to your building permit will take care of most C and D.
I've been to 4 different sites with the trash. This is the first time that I've gone to them 4 different sites, including mine there behind the airport, and they asked me for a card or a sticker. This is the first time in years I've ever been asked for a sticker. Them other sites, a lot of the people don't know me. They finally asking for stickers. And Gary can tell you, since they started asking for stickers and cards at the roll-off sites, we're getting a lot less garbage.
But that's good to hear.
It's a fact. Gary can tell you, we're getting a lot less. We're not having dumpsters stacked up back there trying to, and having to turn people away till we got those dumpsters. That tells you something. There's a world of trash coming to our sites that wasn't coming through county people that's paid their fee. We were getting a lot of fee from the city and surrounding areas. Right there in your dump site in Shady Grove, you get a world of trash out of Madison. I mean, the roll-off site attendant told me, they said, I know all them people, some of them kin to me, they bring it right here, but
I
they
know,
don't.
that's been going on at least I know for 15 years that I've been here, but I'll tell you, just because somebody from the city takes something to the roll-off does not mean that they're there illegally.
I know it, but if they own a place in the city and the county, fine, they got a county sticker on their truck, they can go there, nobody has
And
to
they
quit.
shouldn't be turned away.
If they don't have a sticker or card with them, they need to be turned away. That's the way the rules read, and that's the way we need to follow.
That's right.
Our employees are finally doing that, and I'm proud of them. They've turned the world of trash away. And if it gets dumped in the ditch, Wayne Davis won't catch them dumping in the ditch, they'll be up there to help them.
Well, do you think that our problem is solved then?
Do what?
Do you think our problem is solved?
No, I don't think the problem's solved. We got, over the years, that C and D is in our ordinance not to accept C and D. We need to change that ordinance, we won't accept C and D. But we need to get some qualifications on what kind of CD and how big, how long the limbs is gonna be, how long the 2 by 6s is gonna be. They fill the dumpsters up with stuff sticking out of them, and then the logs, they'll come up there, it'll take 3 people to take a log off the trailer and throw it over in the dumpster. When it gets down there to the burn site where they're gonna put it in an incinerator, they got to cut it up. They got to take a grapple and get it out there and cut it up with a chainsaw. That just takes a lot of labor and dangerous work too, dealing with all that limbs and stuff, cutting it and getting it into that.
I understand that, and maybe you can't put a 15-foot tree in there. I don't know how they get it there, but obviously they get it to the roll-off somehow or another. But there's been times recently where the dumpsters have been full, and they've been full on Saturdays. And so if that continues, what we need to do, and if we charge ahead of time for the C and D, then we'll be making more money than we've ever made, more than likely. We need to buy more dumpsters so that when people go there with their regular yard trash like we did, and we're turned away because the dumpsters are full, buy more dumpsters so that our people aren't turned away.
We used all the money we had budgeted for the dump sites, and we had to buy 2 trucks to use the haul garbage. We had to take 1 cent sales tax money to do that, and that money could have been used for something else.
And that's what I'm saying though, Commissioner, if we charge ahead of time, we'll get that money that we're losing.
So, in reference to contractors, we already have rules in place. And we're not following our own rules. We're not regulating our own rules. If a contractor comes and gets a permit to build a house or, to do a demolition job, they are supposed to have a can brought in by, say, Pops. And couldn't we have inspectors that go to these job sites, and don't these inspectors inspect in sequences of things happening?
Are you talking
And
about?
I'm asking for the inspectors, like the inspectors is going to inspect the job. I mean, can part of the inspection be that, hey, if the inspector does not see a can on site, then, hey, we're not in compliance to red tape the job just like you would any other thing?
I think we would have to make an ordinance change, but I don't think that's insurmountable.
I mean,
And-
he's there,
Right.
and they're quick to turn the job off for something simple, and that's pretty simple to see, hey, where's your,
Is that an efficient way, though, for us to move forward, is that we've got to have somebody go find a job site? First of all, they gotta see who pulled the permit.
they're going to the job site anyway. They're going to inspect the job anyway. They're not going there, they're not making a special trip, they go.
I
and
thought
inspect
you
it.
was talking about in secret, somebody had gone and checked on it. Did
No,
I
I'm talking about our inspectors. We have inspectors that go and inspect these jobs and approve these jobs to move forward. They go out every day
Okay.
at their own site. Why can't they be part of helping manage our own rules? I mean, we got rules in place, we just don't follow.
And we can always change the rules too.
Sure. But I mean, what we're talking about contractors, and what I'm telling you, we're talking about contractors, so in turn, whenever you got these big contractors' jobs going on, well, guess what? It goes to the landfill now, don't go to our roll-off sites. And you're not having to necessarily charge it whenever they build when they buy the permits. It's just a thought, I'm just saying, it's just a thought that we already have rules in place, and we don't regulate them, we don't follow. Go ahead, Rich.
Richard Fagel, 405 Bishop. The only problem I see with the dumpster on the front end, which is what we're doing now, you can rent the dumpster and not put anything in it. I think that's what Jim was saying. You know, you bring it back a month later, and you still have all this stuff, and you take it to our roll-offs. So if you don't have a way of seeing the sheets, you almost have to see, did you take it to the landfill, and do you have a receipt for it? That's about the only way you can deal with that, to be sure.
How does somebody pay money to rent a dumpster and not use it?
Because it's cheaper than going to Greenville and dumping it.
They don't take it, Pops comes and gets it and takes it for them. When you pay for it, that's part of the job.
Okay, I was thinking pops, but
They tell the people to rent a dumpster when they get that permit. And they have to show them proof is what I'm understanding. When they don't show them proof,
We're not requiring that they show proof at this time, but that was a suggestion I had made previously, is if we ask them to show us proof of a container, if they have a new building permit or demolition or, any type of reconstruction, that's a step that we could put in place.
I heard a contractor say where they asked him to get a dumpster rental to do a job. As soon as he got started on the job, he just called the dumpster people, said, bringing it, I'll cancel that, that didn't cost him a penny.
that's what I've heard too. The people use pops, maybe they get them to come pick it up, but I think a lot of them just get rentals, okay, and then you gotta take that rental, and believe me, it's more costly to take that rental to Greenville than it is just to dump it in our dumpsters. And that's why they do it, because it's cheaper and they make more money. It's all about money.
Oh, sure. Well, anyone else from the public?
Anybody got any ideas, please speak up. I'm all ears.
Anyone on the line? Okay.
I
have
think,
one more question.
I think Ms. Spiegel's idea is more feasible than anything I've heard.
Go ahead, Jack.
Isn't it already illegal for a contractor to dump trash if they're not? And isn't it illegal for me if I'm not a resident of the county already? I mean, we're putting the onus, we're putting the onus of enforcing these laws that we already have on the citizens by putting more effort on us. It's already illegal.
If you're not a citizen, I know you're not supposed to dump at our roll-off sites, but
And the contractor thing, is it illegal for a contractor that's working for me to dump my construction material if I'm in the county?
I guess.
According to our ordinance, if I may, our ordinance is pretty restrictive on certain materials, and even goes so far to say that anything that is not related to, like, normal housekeeping is prohibited. You know, so there's no land clearing materials that are supposed to be taken to the roll-off sites, but yard trash you can. So, construction debris is not considered an acceptable material, but I think what's been happening is if homeowners, as part of, you know, they may have a couple of pieces of drywall, or like tearing down a pump shed. I mean, that's obviously that's not building a house. So, you know, especially if it's a mixed load. So yes, we have been taking materials like that, but where we're trying to draw the line is large, you know, any sizable load of construction debris obviously is not a housekeeping item, or is not something that, you know, a homeowner may generate once a year, or just doing something simple.
James's probably question is, if he's got a contractor working for him, pulled a permit to do a job for him, then they're supposed to have a dumpster on site.
So those materials do not go to our roll-off
Well,
sites.
say it's a yard maintenance crew though, just picking up general debris in my yard.
Yard trash is acceptable.
Yeah, well, I mean though, just general debris, you know, there's gonna be some tuba floors and.
So that in the past, I mean, that's a little bit of a gray area, but those materials in the past have been accepted. I think what our employees get into is if it is a yard debris company, and they are taking everybody's yard trash to the roll-off site, that should not be acceptable. So they would be considered a contractor, because they are getting a benefit off a residential assessment. So that's where we struggle a little bit. And then and it puts the onus really on our employees to try to discern what's allowable and what's not allowable. And there are some gray areas, and there's some overlap. But generally speaking, and Gary helped me with this, I think the biggest problem is some of the debris that may be generated by contractors. And they may bring in a permit, because they may own property, improve property, and they use that for their commercial benefit. And that's not the purpose of the assessment in the ordinance that we currently have.
You know, if I'm paying the annual fee, and I have someone come, I don't care if he has a legitimate business, or if he's just, a summer student trying to make some extra money or whatever, and he comes and he does a job for me, and I'm paying that annual fee, what is the difference if he takes it to the roll-off, or if I take it to the roll-off?
Well, because it's yard trash.
Huh?
So it's yard trash.
Well,
So,
that's what you were just talking about.
right.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying. But there's really no way for us to know where the debris comes from.
That's exactly right. That's why we need a system where we don't have to, try to figure out where it came from. And you said something very key, a few minutes ago when you were talking about the attendants, having to decide, what size load it is. Is this, you know, is this, you can't define, is this a big load, a huge load, a medium load, or a small load?
Right.
Because what I may think is a large load, somebody else may think that's a small load. And you'll never, ever fix that. So, again, nothing is gonna be 100%, but I think it's our job to figure out what do we think is gonna work the best, be the most efficient, serve our customers who are the citizens and move forward. I think that's our task at hand here.
It's a good example lately of what's happening. They finally started asking for cards and stickers, and the amount of garbage has went way down. So that tells you right there, all they have to do is have a sticker, and they go there, they look at the sticker, they don't ask you what you are, but they don't, you know, and we were getting a lot of stuff that wasn't being paid for. I'm telling you, and that's a proof of it, when they started asking for stickers, and the word got around, people was not carrying trailer loads of stuff up there like they were, they carried it on to the landfill like they're supposed to. But when they go to clean up somebody's yard and cut down a tree, they charge them people a landfill fee, a dumping fee, and now they're carrying it and having, instead of putting that landfill fee in their pocket, you know, they're carrying it to the landfill.
That may be true in some cases, you're right, but maybe not in all cases.
Not all of them, that's for sure, but in some cases, that's what's happening, and you can see it in the tonnage that's went way down since the people finally started asking for it. And my hat's off to them, a lot of them got cussed out and threatened and everything else when they started a few weeks ago, asking them for the stickers in the cars. And the employees told me they'd never been cussed like that. One lady said she'd never been cussed like that in her life, never even heard some of them words they were throwing out. But what she said, she took it all with a grain of salt, and they went on, you know, and left and come back. They went and got a card to come back, you know. They didn't say nothing, they just showed the card, went out and dumped stuff.
And you know, I think sometimes that goes both ways. I think sometimes you've got the customer that's rude, and I think sometimes it's the other way around too, from some of the stories that I've heard.
If you get better, if we can keep up asking for the cards and stickers and eventually just go to nothing but stickers, it'll make a big difference.
All right, anyone else from the public?
I tell you what, let me say this, we don't need to be talking about this 6 months from now. We had a suggestion. Do we need to go with the suggestion? Or we not need to go with it? Pam says if somebody building a new house, let them pay for this.
I can make a motion.
I'll say I'm not opposed to hearing more on that, but I think you're gonna have to dive into the dynamics of how you're gonna charge and what you're gonna charge for, and based on what kind of permit somebody's pulling in. Is it based on square footage or versus them tearing a little bit out of a pump house? And I don't think we're gonna work. I don't think that's the idea of someone, you know, redoing a pump house and taking a little bit of debris out of there. And so I don't mind hearing more on it as far as whether it's in the dynamics of how it would be. In what instances would we collect money for?
If all discussion is done, then I'm gonna make a motion that we change our ordinance, that we accept all the stuff that we've been accepting up until now, and that we put an additional charge on permits that will cover the cost of C and D.
For a second, let me ask you this question now. Michelle mentioned 12 to 14-inch logs being put in the dump.
That's just, go ahead.
What are we gonna do about that? Now, this says C and D construction debris.
Okay, as far as, vegetative debris, what does the ordinance say, no longer 4 feet?
It's 4 inches by 4 feet, right?
12 inches,
12 inches.
That means 12 inches
12
around.
inches by 4 feet.
Well, I mean, that eliminates a lot of people carrying stuff out of their yard there. Now, I know that you can't carry a whole pine tree down there. You gotta be somewhat reasonable, but I don't think that we should limit that to 4 inches in diameter.
If they can't hardly burn it, if they carry an oak tree, chunks oak that big around, Gary can tell you, that incinerator cannot handle them green oak stumps and stuff. And they can't handle them by hand, they got, all put them in there with a machine, and then they've got to stay there till that thing's burned out, you know, they can't just leave it burning and drive off. You know, so they need the stuff in small diameter and length needs to be right, where they can get it in there, instead of throwing them. I've seen them at my dump site and other dump sites, be 3 people holding on to a log, carrying it over and dumping it over the dumpster, and they end up be sticking up out the dumpster, you know, and that's just, it happens. We've got to get a handle on getting it cut up and have a smaller stuff, or our incinerators are a waste of money. You know, you just can't put that big stuff in an incinerator.
But how many people actually go way out there and take their stuff out there? And the other thing too, when you take a trailer load of stuff out there, you can have a whole trailer load of logs. And if you got 1 tin can in there, they're not gonna take it.
Or styrofoam.
Do you have a suggestion to finish my motion? My motion so far is to change our ordinance, accept what we've been accepting, and put an additional fee on permits. Does anybody have another suggestion other than 4 inches in diameter? Because you're gonna find that on the side of the road.
I think you should discuss the terms of the charges and what instances you're gonna charge people before you, get it changing the ordinance at the moment.
I don't wanna charge our people, they're already paying, I'm not for charging our people anything.
You just said, your motion is to charge folks for when they come in to.
No, I didn't say to
Yeah,
charge
permit, right.
people. I'm asking for help. What I'm saying, to charge for the C and D with a building permit.
So there's gonna be an additional charge when they buy the building permit for the C and D.
That's right.
So I think needs to be more discussion in what instance you wanna charge and whether it's a square footage or what it is. So,
I think you have to have an estimate of what's anticipated if you're building or if you're renovating a 5,000 square foot home, or you renovating a mobile home.
yeah, I mean, I just can't speak it on the fly. I would rather look at some details rather than speak it on the fly, but hey, I'm just one commissioner, so.
Can somebody help me?
In addressing the length of the log, is it possible to reduce the length of the log and allow the diameter to get larger and the incinerator to burn a smaller length with a larger diameter? Like, if you have a 36-inch log, could you make it only 2 feet long? Would the incinerator take that rather than a 4 foot?
What it is, it ain't the incinerator, you have to shut it down by 2 o'clock where it burn out by 4:30, it can't be running.
If it was smaller in length, would that
Still be
be
burning.
acceptable?
It's probably still be burning. The amount we get in, what happens is, and LaWanda will tell you, we're permitted by the DEP, and they make the regs, we don't. And when we put oversized in there, when we shut the machine down, it's a turbine like, it accelerates the burning. When you shut it down, it just smolders at that point. And then if it spark flies out, and nobody's there, then Mike Hunter's woods are on fire next to us.
You have a suggestion?
I do. Perhaps Conrad and I should review our existing ordinance, which includes specific collection methods and it's specific for residential use, and maybe we can bring some information back to the board. Would that be acceptable? So at least if we review our ordinance that's in place, which is 36 or 38 pages, it's very specific. It's not only, I mean, it's the uniform collection and the duties of the different, the tax collector, and this is supposed to go on the tax bill. I think we need to dissect the ordinance and then bring back a suggestion as far as how to handle what your proposal is. I'm not saying it's not doable, but I think we need some time to review the ordinance to see what we would have to change.
Yeah, in my mind, the only question right now is the logs and things like that. And I like the suggestion, keep the length to a certain length, but don't worry about the diameter. If you're gonna take it to the roll-off, it's going to Greenville anyway. We don't take it from the roll-off out there, do we, Gary? We
Yeah.
we do.
Everything goes there.
And it's not contaminated?
We have one can for just vegetation.
Right.
That's why if there's a
Somebody says
can in
that
there.
ain't full, it might be a metal can or a vegetation, doesn't mean it's class 3. You got different cans on the hill that take certain, you can't contaminate them. Because if you do, you take the vegetation, they're gonna charge you for that.
Is
Versus
it more
burning.
cost effective?
Huh?
Is it more cost
It's
effective
more cost effective to burn it.
to haul it from the roll-off out to that place than it is just to take it to Greenville? How much?
Oh, I could run them figures on it, but we've looked at it before. You figure to run a truck costs you $2.10 a mile, and you're running 70 miles with gas and all
And
that.
how many miles is it out there?
Probably from Carlton, it would be, out there, 6 miles.
What about from Steenhatchee?
It's probably 40 some miles.
Yeah,
But if you
compared
ran
to
Steenhatchee,
20 miles.
If you run Steenhatchee to, Greenville, it doubles that, you're 140 at 210.
But now, when you get to Greenville, if it's
You get charged for
contaminated,
it too, $50 a ton, or 47, I'm sorry. So you're getting double hit. And you wear and tear on the truck.
but if you carry it out there to the roll-up, to the burning, it's nothing, no more than what we do. But it costs us to burn it.
But the key is,
Well, it's not nothing.
It means nothing, it costs someone something.
Yeah.
it's more cost effective at the incinerator than it is hauling all the way to Greenville and getting charged.
We have, as Commissioner Moody says, we've kicked this can down the road for 15 years. And here we are again. We've asked the public to come in to help us, and we still can't make a decision. We still don't know what to do. We're gonna go back over the ordinance, and then we're gonna disagree on all that, and then we're gonna have another meeting, and then we just go on and kicking that can down the road.
I want to say one more thing before we get completely out of this. I got some information from the surrounding counties. I want to make this loud and clear. Madison County, assessment $300 per year for household trash. Will take small items at the roll-off site, all other materials sent also to landfill for a fee. Dixie County, $180 per year, household garbage trash only. You have to pay a tipping fee, $35 a ton for building material. And if it's a dirty load, you pay $70 a ton if it's contaminated. In other words, if they got plastic stuff in the building material, they got to pay $70 a ton. Tires, they're $2 a piece if you carry them there. This is in Dixie County. And if it's got a rim on it, it's $4 a piece, you know. Truck tires are $5 a piece, like a semi-tire, $5 a piece, with a rim at $7, and tractor tires, $18, okay? In Taylor County, they just bring them all and dump them over in the dumpster, we have to deal with them, but we get paid for our tires to a certain extent, so you really can't take tires out of the situation, but I'm just giving you Swanee County assessment, $250 a year, the use of decals that fake tape about everything, no charge, closed on Sunday. And Franklin County, private management company runs $75 per quarter, $300 per year, household waste, $45 a ton for construction debris, and $65 a ton charged for things like tires and building materials. Wakulla County assessment is $204, household trash only. Fee for all other items except recycling items. And Jefferson County assessment is $248, household garbage only. And all these other counties have closed their sites on Sunday. We're open 7 days a week, from just about daylight to dark. And they close on Sunday, all of them.
Well, you know, just from hearing that, those counties must be making a lot of extra money, because here in Taylor County, we took everything basically for the last, I know, 15 years. And we still are not in the red.
We're in the red.
Now,
When
according to
you,
Lawanda,
when you
that's-
got to buy dump trucks to carry the trash to Greenville out of 1 cent sales tax money, you're in the red.
So let me just, Lawanda, I asked you before, are we in the red in solid waste? And you said no. And I says, well, then why are we even discussing this? Do you recall that?
I do, and we had, from what I recall, during our budget workshops, we had approximately $200,000 in cash carry forward, unspent money, and we wanted to bank that so we could use it for future purposes, so we didn't have to utilize the 1 cent sales tax money. Right.
Right, so we're not using 1 cent sales tax to balance the solid waste budget.
The reason we got solid waste budget even bumped in the top is because we keep adding money to it on the budgets every year, you know, and we just, so if you want to, it's costing us money.
I think I understand what you're both saying. So yes, I did answer your question that way, because technically, yes, we had money left over. We didn't discuss utilizing 1 cent sales tax, and maybe I should have added that in. We utilize 1 cent sales tax for numerous budgets to purchase capital. And we discussed that during our budget workshops and put a plan in place so that we would save any money left over and would not lower the assessment. So in the future, we could use any cash carry forward to perhaps make capital purchases.
Yes. But going back to the 1 cent sales tax, that's what it was earmarked for in the first place, was capital improvements, not for day-to-day operations.
Right.
That's
So
what it was for.
Well, if the dump sites carried themselves with the amount we charged for 188 or 178, we wouldn't have to get anything out of the 1 cent sales tax. It just don't make sense. You got
But, let's don't forget.
it needs to carry itself is what we're trying to get
Right,
to.
but don't forget, we represent the citizens. And what we're trying to do is make this process as efficient as we can, but yet take care of our citizens. I don't want our citizens having to carry their stuff to Greenville. I will never vote for that to happen. That is not taking care of our citizens, in my opinion.
All these other counties do it.
That's them.
Yeah.
I represent Taylor County.
All right. Okay. All right, there's nothing else from the public. Mr. Figel, you do have a motion on the table. Are you keeping that on the table, or do you want to withdraw based on staff doing some work? What's your?
My motion would be this. As I said, my motion will be to change our ordinance so we accept what we've been accepting, and that we charge an additional fee with the building permit for C and D, and that we take logs that are no longer than 4 feet in in length, but we're not gonna worry about the diameter. That's my motion, and that takes care of everything.
All right, nothing else. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? All right.
Yeah, let me second that motion.
Okay.
It's a plan, and if it fails, we have to go back to the drawing table anyway. But if not, we can go forward and work on it as we need to. Okay? So I give a second.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Fegel and a second by Commissioner Dent. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm against it.
I'm against it as of now until we do a little bit more work on how we're gonna charge these folks. I mean, we're taking it anyway, so we're taking it anyway, so like I said, I'm not turning them away at this time, so I'm just, before we get into more charges at the permits, that I'd like to see how are we gonna charge these folks whenever they come and get these permits.
What now?
When you come get the permit, build it out.
Okay, but just keep this in mind. Either they pay it to us, or they pay it to the contractor. they're gonna pay the same amount, because we're gonna charge, if we do this, we're gonna charge the same amount by an estimate, the same way as the contractor is gonna charge. So they're either gonna pay us, or they're gonna pay the contractors, but a citizen is not gonna be out any more money like we discussed a few minutes ago.
I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, I would just like to see in what instances do you plan to charge the citizens? Is it based on a square footage? Is it, you know, how are you gonna handle these, yard working companies? So, I'm just curious to see the dynamics and the logistics of when and how you plan to charge versus just, I mean, just, instead of going on a whim and saying, hey, we just throw this out there, I mean, gotta be some detail around what you're gonna charge for and when you're gonna charge.
And we could listen to all that, but I just wanted to say, how many times? How many times have we said, well, we're gonna wait, now we're gonna go by the trailer side, now we're gonna go by the truck side, now we're gonna go by this, we're gonna go by that. Look.
So I just need some guidance from my board.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to bring back some detail to maybe first meeting in January.
So is that for Conrad and I to review the ordinance? Okay. Okay.
All right, we'll move on to our public request, item 12, Brenda Cross, Taylor County Long-Term Recovery Group to present an update.
Brief update.
Brief update, okay?
I am Brenda Carlton with the Taylor County Long-Term Recovery Group. And as y'all remember, after Hurricane Idalia, we came together and formed the community volunteer group to form this, to try to help the people of Taylor County with some of their recovery needs. So we do have a 501(c), and Pastor David Johnson is our chair. I'm the vice chair, and we have other officers, a couple of at-large officers. Reverend George Clayton is one of those, and Beth Moore was one of those. But what I wanted to update y'all was this year, we've been working this whole time, but this year in August of 2025, we were able to obtain a grant, actually through Red Cross, and we were able to hire 3 full-time contractors that work for us. We have an executive director, we have a case manager coordinator, and a construction manager coordinator that work with us for our jobs and all. We have assisted over 400 families, households, and that includes, working with them on case management, construction, and even the financial support to provide this. We currently have 116 active cases, and we're getting more weekly. We've been trying to increase our outreach with some of those. A lot of people think that, there's no help for them, but there is help out there, and that we're trying to, through case management, work those avenues. Also, in August, we started having what they call an unmet needs committee, and it's where we come to the table and bring the cases and for funding. And we have a number of people that sit in on those. Most of those are done by Zoom, but they come up with the money to fund some of these projects. And it may be that there may be 2, 3, or 4 different groups funding one project. We try to use, we're a volunteer group to start with, except for the 3 that we've hired, but our contractors are volunteers too. We've had Christian Aid Ministries and MDA coming in and staying months at a time doing the work, and that labor, is free to us. So the more volunteer labor we can get, then that just lets our money go a little bit further for the materials. I just wanted to mention some of the names of the organizations that are partners with us. Red Cross, United Way, Salvation Army, Catholic Charities, Volunteer Florida, Mount Olive Affordable Housing, Florida Conference of United Methodist Church, Community Foundation, Volunteer Florida, MDA, Christian Aid Ministries, Three Rivers Legal, and then we had, Faith Responders was one of the big groups that was in here actually helping us with, the case management and all, after a death. So we have a lot of volunteers out there, a lot of man hours, and we're just continuing to, work, and we've helped the people that we can. We've helped with roof replacements, food, interior and exterior repairs, temporary housing, and, our case managers can help you with the paperwork, especially dealing with things and all. But, we're continuing to work diligently in not only, Taylor, but, well, the Perry community, but in the Steenhatchee community, we have a presence there. Within the next 30 days, we'll have a small office facility set up. They're currently working on it now. We're gonna be in the little outreach building by, Northside Church of God, but we're gonna have a presence out there, so, love for y'all to come out and visit, volunteer, but we just like to keep you updated on what we're doing, trying to help the citizens of the community. Any questions?
Yes, sir. You still meeting on Wednesday?
Yes, we are. In fact, they're meeting this week. Usually every 2 weeks on these. Okay?
Do you have a number that we can give to people that want to contact you?
I have a number, I'll even give you my number, but I mean, I'll give you the number for.
Whatever works.
Well, I'll give you the number for the group, it's 850-290-2298. And that's basically an answering machine, and somebody will call right back, but they're welcome to call me anytime.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
any other questions?
You still meeting down at
Beach Street.
Bagville Bistro? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you did.
Good, item 13, Georgia Pacific representatives to present decommissioning and wastewater updates.
Good evening, my name is Kelly Ferguson. I'm not sure if I need to give my business address, but it's 133 Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia. I want to thank the commission for allowing us to come and share some information. We've got two primary topics that we would like to discuss. That's an update on the decommissioning and demolition projects that are going on at the Foley site. And then also some information about the wastewater permitting process that we are walking through. I've got a few people with me that will also probably weigh in. First, we've got Manoj Mathur, who is environmental lead for our packaging and cellulose group. Dave Massengill, leader of GP's Global Remediation and Engineering Group. Neil Melchioni, Remediation Project Manager for GP, and Greg Council, who is Principal Engineer with Tetra Tech, one of our primary contractors. One of the things I do want to say is we are committed, Georgia Pacific is committed to a safe and environmentally responsible process at the former mill site. We are following a regulatory process managed by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and we are following the steps laid out by that agency. We also are committed to completing the decommissioning and the remediation as quickly as we can to return this property to public use. That's our commitment. We're working hard at that. The wastewater permitting process is in play and part of that in terms of allowing us to continue to move forward with the decommissioning and the demolition. With that, I'll turn it over to Greg and ask him to share some of the updates.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you, commissioners. As Kelly said, my name is Greg Council. I'm with a company called Tetra Tech. We were hired by GP and Foley Cellulose to help them complete environmental closures at the site in a way that'll be protective of the public and the environment. I'm an engineer, an environmental engineer by training. We prepared a few slides that I'll kind of step through. If I could have some help on that, thank you. just to kind of, as Kelly mentioned, we really have two topics that we were prepared to talk to you all about, just to give you an information about what's going on at the site, the former Foley cellulose site. The two big activities right now, number one, they're demolishing a lot of the structures that were, so you can see them coming down. That demolition and decommissioning process is about a third of the way through. And number two is we're in the midst of planning for all the environmental closures, just to make sure everything is taken care of from an environmental perspective. Part of that requires a renewal of a permit to discharge wastewater. And right now, you probably know that wastewater goes through a pipeline out to the mouth of Finn Holloway, 15 miles to the west-southwest. That pipeline is no longer, we're no longer able to use it because of a lawsuit. So GP can no longer use the pipeline. It's not GP's choosing not to use the pipeline, but because a lawsuit brought by a landowner, that pipeline is now not available for Georgia Pacific and Foley Cellulase to use as their wastewater discharge. So we're in the process of getting a permit renewal that will allow them to discharge clean water back to the Finn Holloway, kind of where it was, or actually where it was prior to moving it down to the mouth of the river. So we'll go to the next slide. As I said, the decommissioning, the demolition is about 30% of the way through. So the buildings are coming down. We took a tour today, and things are progressing very well. That process will continue for many more months. It should be around the end of next year, around the end of calendar year 2026, when the demolition is complete. And there will be no more buildings at the facility. Now, except for two, they're keeping two kind of warehouse buildings that will remain. We're now working with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, FDEP, to get that permit renewal I was talking about, so that the wastewater, which is really not wastewater, as we'll talk about in a minute, it's wastewater, but it's actually stormwater and groundwater that passes through the plant. Once it's treated, instead of sending it 15 miles downriver, we're putting in a permit application to discharge it under the environmental rules right near the plant at the old outfall location. We're also Tetra Tech is helping Georgia Pacific prepare all the plans that are necessary to close the plant environmentally. This means the sludges that are in the lagoons, solid waste management area. We're going to take care of all that in accordance with DEP protocols, in accordance with their rules. By developing the plans, we're doing an investigation now. We're measuring concentrations of materials, see if there's any contamination, and if there is, we'll address it through a remedial program. Go to the next slide for me. This slide, we wanted to give an overview kind of what the site looks like from a demolition perspective. So on the right side of this figure is an aerial photograph that's been marked up into 16 different areas. And those are the 16 different demolition areas that the demolition contractor is now working through, taking the buildings down. As I said, they're about a third of the way through. The green areas, on the green shaded areas on that aerial photograph are areas that have already been taken care of. Those are completed demolition areas. The other areas inside the red and yellow lines, those are areas still to be demolished. There's more details in terms of what they call those areas on this slide, but that's the basic take home from this, is that this is how the demolition is progressing. So turn to the next slide, just a little bit more on the wastewater permit. So there's an existing permit, as I said, it's called the NPDES, this National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. That's the kind of permit it is. Under that system, right now, we're discharging wastewater through the mouth of the Finn Holloway River 15 miles away. But that pipeline, because of this lawsuit, we can't use it anymore. So we've got to figure out something and figure out quick where can we put that water. We put a permit application in after evaluating the possibilities. Put a permit application in to put the wastewater, after it's treated, back into the Finn Holloway at the old location next to the plant. It's important to remember we no longer have a mill that's producing materials, no longer manufacturing there, so there's no processed wastewater. What we have now coming into the wastewater system is really stormwater and groundwater that's pumped out of the ground and then passed through It's used for fire protection, it's used to aid in demolition, and then it just passes into the wastewater system. The treatment system still operates just to make sure that we get the contamination out of it. And then that water is now being discharged downstream, but will be discharged if the permit is successful near the plant in the Holloway River. Both of those sources of water are relatively clean because there's nothing going on. It's just it's non-processed water that's gone through the mill, through their fire protection system and their ditches.
Hold on just a second if I could.
Yes.
What do you mean relatively clean?
I wouldn't say it's like, it does still need some treatment. So there's still like a little bit of what we call biological oxygen demand. And so it still needs to go through the treatment system. And that's why we do keep this treatment system operation. It's not like tap water, in other words. But we can, importantly, we can, and that's part of the permit application. It's a good question. We can meet the standards for a freshwater river through that treatment. And that's why we're proposing to discharge under the normal FDP rules back into the freshwater river. So that application is in. It's actually not completed yet. We're still working through the DEP, answering their questions. We've submitted the original application. They asked for some more information. We replied to that. That was called a request for information, RAI. We did a reply on GP's behalf. There were more questions raised by the DEP. We submitted a response. And ultimately, if there are no more requests, the DEP will deem the application complete. They'll go through their process of perhaps drafting a draft permit that will then be available for comment. Yes, sir.
Question, you're saying you're still dumping into the pipeline?
The pipeline, it's actually, right now is sort of an interesting question because I think as of a week or so ago, yes, I think at the moment there's zero discharge because we're in a point of limbo where we can't use it anymore.
In other words, you're not using it now? You are using
Today,
it?
I'll just defer, not being used today. Zero.
You're not putting any water at all or anything into the pipeline?
Where's it going?
As of today. I mean, literally, this is like moment to moment because of this lawsuit. I understand an easement's been canceled. I'm not involved all that much in that. I'm just trying to help GP get the permits of it because we can't, it's not a sustainable solution to not have a place to take this water.
In other words, if you have a big rainstorm come in now and all that comes off that concrete out there, it's going somewhere.
It's going somewhere. Now, they've done a good job of pumping ponds and lagoons down, so there's a lot of storage capacity at the site that can be used for stormwater in an extreme event.
And you still running the well line pumping water?
The well line is also one of these things that it was running last week or week before, but now I think as of the last couple of days, it's zero.
Thank you.
Mr.
Yes.
Sorry, just to clarify,
Yes.
that just happened.
Yes.
Okay, when?
Which one?
So not utilizing the pipeline.
The pipeline in the last few days, Brett?
Okay, yeah, that's new,
Right before that.
just a few days. So that's new information for us. So you're still,
How many days?
And
right?
if I may weigh in, I mean, we just found, this just happened, and we are considering an appeal, but we're considering it.
So you may end up going back into the pipeline at some point.
We don't know that, but we're honestly not, we're not planning, or we're not thinking that that's going to happen. If that easement is done, we're contractually obligated not to use that pipeline. Now, we would prefer to continue using the pipeline, and we think it's economically beneficial to keep that pipeline in the ground. Beneficial for the community, for the future, and attracting, an industrial user. But, because we have a contract and we are obligated, we would have to pull that pipeline out of the ground, and it would not be available.
If I may, so you are treating this stormwater, wastewater, and storing it right now?
Correct.
Okay, so once the demolition is complete, are you going to continue to treat?
No. Eventually, once demolition is complete and environmental closures are complete, the plan would be, the hope is, and the plan is that we would not need to treat. That you basically just have a normal site, it's a cleared site. The water is clean. We will probably have some sort of retention, detention basins for stormwater, and that's all we'll need.
And what's the monitoring plan?
Well, the monitoring plan would be still worked out with the DEP, but it would be substantial, and it would be probably long-term.
So the treatment plant would ultimately end up shutting down.
Right.
Correct.
So
And that was kind of unknown, and, I mean, that's,
that's where a lot of the questions from, I know the board, and even a lot of the questions from the public, with this permitting this water to go back into the river upstream, and ultimately turning that pipeline off, because if you guys are saying it's gonna be, the site is gonna be set up for future use by someone else, then who knows what's gonna go, and they need a dump location, then who knows what they're gonna put in the river. For years and years, it's all, GP did finally, hey, they did work out a deal to get pipeline, and spent the money to get a pipeline too. So it did go back in the river, and the river has kind of started cleaning up. So, there was a business decision made to shut the mill down, that's their business, but as a community, I think the question is not sure that we get long-term of whatever business may end up out there. And they do have the use and the need for the wastewater plant, then not so sure that we want water going right back into that river, because who knows what it could be.
Understand, yeah. And to your point, I would say that the DEP has rules around that, and that's, we have to be followed, I would imagine, very stringently.
I understand. I just know what come out of that mill was pretty rough in that river. So, the DEP, I know they got rules, but it messed that river up pretty well where folks didn't use it for fishing or any kind of enjoyment. Nowhere. So, but I'll let you finish your.
Well, I got one more slide, and it's pretty much just a wrap up. Well, actually a map, but just as an aerial photo of the plant, just so, kind of people can understand. It's hard to point on the screen like this, but on kind of the right middle side, the developed area, you can see the plant there. 2 of those buildings will remain, the rest will be demolished. In the upper right corner of that site, of the map, of the aerial photograph, you see a big cleared area. That area all up there is called the solid waste management area. And we've been doing investigation up there. We've been putting in wells to measure groundwater contamination, for any groundwater contamination. And we've been measuring the concentration of the materials of the waste itself, the sludges that are disposed up there. And then in the left side, on the kind of the lower left side, you see lagoons and ponds. And those are areas we've also been investigating. So there are wells around those areas as well to check for the groundwater conditions. And we've been measuring concentrations in the sludges and sediments of those ponds. So I just want to give you an overview of what we're doing. Where it says D001 outfall, that's where the water will meet the Finn Holloway if we're successful in getting a new permit. Once the water is treated, again, it's stormwater, it's groundwater that passes through. Once it's treated, it would go basically to the Finn Holloway at that D001 location. Next slide. Thank you. So overall, I just want to point out, what the goal, the striving, the hope, the hope here is that we're doing this in a way that is protective of the environment and that positions the site for future use and future benefit. So we want to close it in a manner that protects the environment, protects humans, and there are all kinds of rules that the DEP has to make sure that happens. Right now, the water meets Class 3 standards. It's going to have to meet Class 3 standards in order to discharge it to the river there. So that was always the hang-up, I think, in the past. But now that the mill operations have ceased, the water's clean, the water's much less, and we'll be able to meet those standards. We're going to be returning the stormwater back to the area where it came from instead of taking it 15 miles downstream. And we are doing groundwater monitoring. There's groundwater monitoring that's been going on quarterly as part of the permit that exists now. And we're doing additional on top of that extra, we put in new wells, we've measured concentrations. So far, we've seen nothing of concern in the groundwater that we didn't already know about. There was a little bit of a caustic, high pH area right in the main mill site, right near a couple of those tanks. It's not an extensive area. Beyond that, we've seen no exceedances of anything called a groundwater cleanup target level. Those are the state levels of concern in groundwater. So far, everything looks really good. We're going to do a lot more work. We're going to investigate. We're going to figure out if anything needs to be done from a remediation standpoint. If it does, we will.
Mr. Chairperson, can I ask one on that note?
Yes.
And I know some people in our audience have questions.
Sure.
But talking about the groundwater, so once the pumping is ceased, will you continue to monitor the groundwater?
Yes.
Okay. And then you have a plan for that?
So there is a quarterly monitoring plan right now that's being followed. We're doing additional voluntary monitoring on top of that.
Okay.
And once the new permit is issued, we believe one of the conditions will be to revise the groundwater monitoring plan going forward.
Okay. Thank you.
And then just last point, this discharge to D001 of wastewater, we think will be temporary. Basically, we need to get to the environmental closures. As I said, once that's done, we'll just have stormwater. It'll be normal, just a normal site that won't require a permitted discharge. Ultimately, we want to turn the site into something that's useful for the county, something that someone else would want to use, perhaps, as you mentioned, Chairperson English, to some other manufacturing, whatever. Thanks for the opportunity to make comments. Yes, sir.
Where it is on the street now, this is what you hear, is, Georgia Pacific got a rule about another wood producing plant could not be put on that site?
I have no idea, honestly.
I
don't know anything about that.
Y'all don't have any rule that if y'all sold that site, you couldn't sell it to another paper mill site?
No. I'm not with Georgia Pacific, I'm with consultant.
Those guys are Georgia Pacific.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by a rule. I mean, we considered a number of interested parties, and none, chose it. And we decided to go this route. I don't know if there's been something stated about not allowing a pulp if they want a site here. I'm not sure I can get an answer for that.
Right. Well, that's just a rumor on the street. That y'all would make sure there wasn't no other kind of paper product plant built on that site.
Any other questions?
Yes. I just, to all you GP people, I just want to make sure that what I'm hearing is that you are trying to get a permit, that you put all this back into the Thin Holloway River the way it was, after GP made a decision to destroy our community and cause untold hardship on us and all our citizens. Is that correct? What you're trying to do?
And what we're trying to do is put the water that's now not the wastewater that was generated before, but the water that's being generated now into the Finn Holloway near there under the existing rules that protect freshwater rivers.
You're trying to get that permit to put the water back in the Finn Holloway River because you can't run it through the pipeline for reasons.
Because they've been sued and the pipeline is no longer available to them.
Y'all need to work that stuff out with Four Rivers. This community is not gonna be in favor of y'all putting anything back in that Finn Holloway River. We are depending on that pipeline, hopefully, for the future of Taylor County. Hopefully, we could get somebody in that can use it. And we sure don't need all this going on. We have been run over and destroyed almost here at this county because of GP.
Yeah, I just say it's not GP that's removing the pipeline.
GP is the one that opened and left suddenly and left us holding the bag.
Jay, you have a question?
If you don't get a discharge permit and you can't use the pipeline, is it possible to remediate closed loop?
Is it possible to remediate closed loop?
Not discharging.
I don't know. It will be more difficult.
What other options will you have if you don't have discharge permitting?
I don't know. I'm not really prepared to answer that.
What's preventing you from using the pipeline?
There's a lawsuit that basically says you can't use it, and in fact, I don't know the details exactly.
The judge hasn't ruled that.
I believe an arbitration panel has ruled and said that the easement is now vacated. And so.
Okay, so y'all are in violation of state law now.
I don't see how, but I'm not a lawyer.
Is it
Well,
really?
I think your discharge permit is at the ocean. So that means if you're not doing that, you're in violation of state law.
There's no discharge to an unpermitted location.
There's no discharge because there's been no rain here for 2 months. Okay. But that's something we need to look at as a county. The county should be, Richard's view, county should have been part of that lawsuit. And we still have time, I think, because the judge, I don't think, has ruled. I think I talked to Luana today, we need to have a friend of the court input to that lawsuit a little bit and talk about the impact on Taylor County. That's both parties. I mean, the only reason you're in violation is because GP won't pay Four Rivers what they own. That's the only reason we're in violation. It's money again. So we need to work that out. We need to get engaged, y'all.
Is the pinhole we still classified as industrial stream?
No, it's a free.
By statement. If it is, why don't we just go to the state and get them to revoke that, and then they can't put it in the river?
But it is a free.
It's class 3. It's no longer class 5.
So what you're saying then is that the whole problem stems from GP not paying Four Rivers what they're supposed to be paying.
Well, I think the contract, it's a real fuzzy contract. I mean, what I remember of the contract is real fuzzy. It's something about they gotta have so much wood that they buy. Well, GP can buy all the amount of wood they want.
Okay, this is the
But they
environmental,
refuse
let's
not
hear
to.
from a representative from GP. Come to the podium, please.
The only thing I'll say about the pipeline is right now, we are not prepared to answer questions or discuss any of that. Again, all I can say is we would like to keep the pipeline in the ground and continue to use it. But because Four Rivers brought a lawsuit against us, we are contractually obligated, if that easement ends, that we are contractually obligated to remove the pipeline.
Y'all been enjoined? Have you been joined yet?
I don't, again, I don't have that information.
All right, I think you need to look see if they're in violation of state law. Because I think they are.
Let's check into that tomorrow.
Any other questions?
My question is, what are you gonna do with the water when the permit's denied? You've gone from plan A to plan B, what's plan C?
Yeah, as I said, we will have to come up with something.
In a matter of days, the water's backing up? With a 24-hour, 100-year plan on the water, where's it gonna roll to? The ponds will be full.
Sure.
Answer?
We'll have to work on a plan.
I've got a number of questions. Let me just stand up and just share who I am. I'm Michelle Curtis. I worked at the plant for 35 years. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a citizen, not any group I'm participating in. I worked as a support person for the environmental group for over 20 years, so I'm very familiar with many things. I'm not an engineer, but I am very familiar with a lot that happened over time. And I've got a long list of questions I'd be glad to give to you if you haven't received them yet. I just actually sat down at the computer this morning looked at your slides, presentation, pulled together a list of questions, and so I know this is short notice. It's not something necessarily that you may have the right people in the room to maybe answer these questions, but I do think the public needs this information before we can truly provide proper input at that meeting on the 11th, the public input meeting. I'd be glad to go through those questions, if that's acceptable to the commission. Okay. So, does the commission have copies already, or do I need to give you copies of the questions?
Michelle, I emailed them to Mr. Ferguson earlier.
Yeah,
He was probably traveling.
The only thing I can say is, having kind of looked through them, there are some that we can certainly address, particularly around the wastewater permitting. There are some that are probably, as Greg kind of pointed out, there are some that are more long-term in terms of environmental closure, that we can address some, but may not be able to address all. And again, as I've said, we're not prepared to talk about the pipeline and answer any of those questions except what I've said. We want to keep the pipeline in the ground, but we have had a lawsuit. And again, the outcome of that, has necessitated us looking at alternatives, because if we don't have the alternative discharge, then we also have to cease the demolition, which is going to just delay all of that. So we're looking at what those alternatives are. So
I would like to have the opportunity to go ahead and even pose the questions that you say that you can't answer today, because I think the public needs to hear them. Okay. The other thing I would like to do, Mr. Ferguson, is address one thing you mentioned about the GP not finding any wood-using industries that there was any. I will tell you, I was very involved with a group that worked very closely with the Florida Department of Commerce. Commerce and engineer from our group went to Europe at an international pulp conference, brought back 10 potential buyers that were vetted by the state of Florida. GP would not talk to them. They finally said in public, through the newspaper, that they would not sell to a wood-using industry. So you might want to check your information. Okay. Your current application indicates that cells 6 through 11, and that's lagoon cells on the plant site, will be used to manage rainwater for the 100-year with a 24-hour storm event. First question, how does the rainwater get directed to those cells? Because there's not a path that I'm aware of, or that others that I talked with that are aware of. And then how would you recover that to treat it before it's discharged? Because it has to go somewhere. The proposed discharge location you're talking about using right now, to the best of my knowledge and the people that I've spoken with that had more recent knowledge of the site, okay, it confirmed to me that there was no way to stop the flow of water out at discharge. If you put it in those cells 6 through 11, it's going to flow on through, right on out, untreated. And that may not be the case, but we need you to address that to the public, because we don't have that information. We need it from you. The other thing I would say, to the best of our knowledge, cells 6 through 11 contain sludge and solids that were dioxin laden. And so we want to know, have those cells been cleaned out? Are those cells clean and free of dioxin? And if they're not, why would you put stormwater into cells that have dioxin sludge that can go directly to the river?
So the dioxin sludge is not going directly to the river. And you're right to point out that there is dioxin in the sludges of some of those cells in Lagoon 2. The way it works is that, and there's ways for stormwater to get there, just the way the water system is set up. And once if we do, and there's stormwater there now, because it rains on top of those lagoons. The stormwater does end up in those cells. Part of what we've got to figure out in environmental closure is how to deal with those cells. The water that gets to those particular cells is actually can be pumped over into cell 2. And from cell 2, it routes through treatment. So the point is that water gets treated before it is then discharged And it's really irrelevant whether we're talking about the mouth of the river discharge location or the one we've proposed to move to, the old location. Regardless, it's treated, it's stormwater that gets routed through those cells is treated.
And that, if I understood what you said earlier, that is if you continue to run the treatment process. But I think I heard you say that when the plant is closed out, that you will not run the treatment process.
Once the docks and contaminated sludge, for instance, and any other environmental issue the site has been dealt with, the hope would be, and the plan would be that we wouldn't need to run the treatment system.
So there's really question how you're gonna deal with it long term. I think I heard you say. You don't have the answer to that yet.
Correct, we're in planning stages.
Okay. Okay, also on the, why, I think from what I understand, it's common in the state through DEP to have your plans in place, not just planning, when you start demolition and things like that, and this is for the stormwater runoff. Why has that not been the number one priority in getting the stormwater treatment system in place prior to starting all this work?
Well, I assure you there was a stormwater pollution prevention plan prepared and a stormwater permit notice issued to the DEP, which is customary for demolition projects. That was all done. And in this case, the stormwater is routed to the existing water treatment system.
As long as your treatment system is running.
Correct.
You mentioned that the only facilities left on site would be 2 warehouses. Will the electrical lines leading to the site, the rail lines on site, the gas lines on site, and the pumps still be available potentially for new users that could potentially buy your site once it's remediated?
I don't know personally.
I'm not going to answer that in the affirmative, but we will get an answer to that question.
You mentioned that the pipeline discharge change that you're requesting is because of the lawsuit. And I am somewhat familiar with the easement itself and those kinds of things that are in it. But is it really that Georgia Pacific was not willing to pay for the continued use of the pipeline? Is that really what it is? And GP doesn't want to pay, so you say, I can't do it, I have to move the discharge. Is that really what it is?
I've already said I'm not going to answer questions related to the pipeline. I understand the question,
Okay.
but I'm not, again, we're still in litigation.
Has GP made an offer for Rivers, financial offer to settle this?
I do not have that information, and again, not going to share in any speculation.
What specifically are you doing in the sludge lagoons to address the contaminated sludge issues? What are your plans there?
Well, we have done a lot of measuring of concentrations in that area to first assess what's going on. Once you assess, you develop a number of options. We've looked at several options. Now we're in the process of sort of vetting those options. We call it a feasibility study. We're going through that process now. Ultimately, we'll come up with a closure plan.
And I'm not only speaking of the lime lagoons, but I'm speaking of your solid waste area as well.
Yes.
Because I believe that's an unlined lagoon, in essence.
It's pretty dry up there now.
Oh, sure.
But we have done a lot of measurements of concentrations. I mentioned the new groundwater wells we put in, which all look clean. No exceedances of groundwater contamination levels. But we've also measured the concentration levels in the actual sludges that are there. And we're working on a plan to address that.
How will GP keep all the contaminants that may be on the soil, in the soil, or in the groundwater immediately below the site? What is your plan to keep that contaminated water from migrating into the the groundwater outside of its current zone of discharge?
So far, we have no indication that we've got contamination migrating outside the zone of discharge. And we're going to go through the monitoring that's necessary and the closure that's necessary, environmental closure is necessary to make sure that we're protected, groundwater, surface water, air, all media.
Are you familiar with the studies that occurred at the site probably 20 to 30 years ago to model groundwater flow and the plant's impact and how to control migration of water and contaminants off the site?
I'm aware of a model that was done to get a consumptive use permit for the wells themselves. Personally, I'm aware of that model.
Well, there is at least one historical study that I'm very familiar with. And if you don't have access to it, I would encourage you to talk with Chet Thompson, who you well know, because he was very involved with it at the time. And he was a youngster at the time, but he understands it very well. And he probably could help you find where it is. But there is a study that was done to understand the dynamics of water flow underground and how it interacts with that plant site and why you have to keep running well number 2 to keep the migration from occurring.
Yeah, I'll say frankly, we don't have this. I don't know.
Well, I would encourage you to look into it because it's a serious issue.
If I may, my name's Neil Melchione, also 133 Peachtree Street in Atlanta. I'm just a technical person. I work with Greg. I'm not a lawyer. I just wanted to mention on the closure plans. So Greg mentioned we're in kind of the planning stages. That's also kind of parallel to our permitting effort. And so we go through that process with the state, with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection as well. That involves presenting them with closure plans and kind of talk about the investigation that we've done, the plan that we have to environmentally close the solid waste management area and the lagoons. We would go through, we would do that closure, and then on the back end of that closure, we would have a monitoring phase. So a monitoring and operations and maintenance phase. So whatever we put in place for an environmental closure, we'd have long-term monitoring and maintenance of that closure to make sure that it remains protective. So the investigation that we've done so far, we've not identified any groundwater contamination above the state standards. We've put additional wells in voluntarily around the solid waste management area and not identified those issues. We've got groundwater monitoring as part of our wastewater permit that we've been talking about here. We've got limits that are set by that permit and by the state that we adhere to and that we're going to continue to comply with as part of the closures. So it's not like once we get to the end of this 3 years or 3 to 5 years to get through that closure that we're going to evaporate. We're going to have that monitoring that goes on long term to make sure that however we close these things, it remains protective.
Thank you. So what you really told me answers my number 9 question, and that's how long will the water treatment continue? And I think what I've heard you say is you recognize responsibility after the 3-year period of time of closure, and that you'll continue to monitor and recognize that GP has responsibility if there are issues of contaminants leaving the site.
That's correct.
And just, and pumping that groundwater. I mean, that's not certainly not a strategy of ours. And, if there's any issues in the groundwater that we haven't identified yet, that we identify, we would address them as part of the closure. But, we would not address that by continuing to pump groundwater.
Michelle, could I build on that?
Please.
Dan Simmons, I live on Henry Lee Road, just speaking as an individual. If you sell the property, does GP still recognize a responsibility to go beyond even with a new ownership, or would a new ownership essentially take you out of the picture?
It's how the deal is structured. So if a company, and we felt that they were financially stable enough that they would do the right thing and continue the monitoring, because it'll always come back to GP if someone stops doing it. So we have sold properties to other sophisticated companies, and we'd have them pick up the environmental monitoring. Obviously GP, it would be a part of the deal. And if we didn't feel that it was the right thing to do to have another company take that over, we would continue to monitor it. And we have several sites that we no longer own, but we continue to do the environmental monitoring.
So that's to be negotiated.
Right.
And I would just add, the state is involved at every level there. So if you've got, so they would approve some kind of plan for that monitoring. And they make sure that whoever it is, whether it's GP or someone else who takes on that obligation, the state would ultimately be a partner in making sure that gets completed.
Of course, any buyer would probably require a hold harvest from them, for sure. Any buyer would, worth its salt.
In the permitting request, you had discharge to D001 will be temporary. What do you mean temporary? I mean, why is this a temporary?
I mean, the idea is that eventually we don't need an NPDES permit at all. That eventually you have just stormwater over a clean site. You may have retention and detention basins, but it won't need to have a permitted discharge location.
I noticed on the slides you put together, you had GP's goals. Does GP also have a public benefit goal to ensure no groundwater contamination occurs after full closure of the site?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So why does GP think that number 2 well can be shut off and no contaminants in the soil or lagoons leave the site?
Right now, there's no indication that we have contaminants in the site.
Right, because you have number 2 well running.
We don't have evidence of contamination around the solid waste management area or around the process area. So it doesn't seem likely there would be groundwater contamination leaving the site.
So you're confident that the sludge lagoon that is on the line that has contaminants in it cannot enter the groundwater?
I'm confident that we have data. I mean, we are doing more work. We're going to be doing more. As I said, we're in the midst of investigation. We have a sampling crew literally there today and tomorrow taking groundwater samples. We may find out something different. To date, the groundwater data are very encouraging in that they show groundwater contamination exceeding groundwater cleanup target levels does not exist around the solid waste management area. Hasn't been found, I should say, around the solid waste management area. Similarly, in the process area, we've got a little high pH. We've known about that for a while, but we've measured around that a little farther away, and everything's neutral. So we're hopeful that groundwater, our continued results will continue to show us that there's not a groundwater contamination issue to be concerned about.
And if I know, I believe on the webpage, I put some of that Greg mentioned, the responses that we sent back to the state.
I did read those as well.
So in number 1, that response, we included some of that groundwater data that we voluntarily went out and collected around the solid waste, but we included it there. That's where you can find that identify any exceedances of those state criteria.
Has GP requested a renewal or continuation of the pipeline easement from Four Rivers?
Again, I'm not going to discuss that litigation.
Okay. I think you have confirmed this already. My question was, does GP plan to remove the pipeline from the ground before GP wraps up all activity in Taylor County? And I think you have said that yes, that you are required to do that if you no longer have an easement.
Contractually obligated.
But you won't talk about the fact whether you really have asked for a continuation of the easement or not.
I'm not going to discuss the litigation.
Okay. Has GP assessed the impact of removing the pipeline on the potential for the community to recruit new business?
As I said, we would prefer that the pipeline stay in the ground because we think there is an economic benefit that another industrial user would find that pipeline beneficial as part of their own permitting process. You know, we're trying to manage our permitting process, but once, you know, other companies are identified, if they do whatever discharges they have, if they're an industrial user, you know, we believe that they would find that pipeline to be beneficial as part of their, you know, request for environmental permitting.
Have you requested for Rivers to allow you to leave the pipeline in the ground and turn it over to them?
I'm not going to discuss the litigation.
How does GP think the community can recruit new business that would need a wastewater discharge if the pipeline is removed?
I think some of those questions should be directed to Four Rivers. Again, I've stated kind of what our belief is in terms of the importance of that pipeline.
Thank you for allowing me to walk through these questions. Again, I think, you know, prior to being able to provide appropriate information and input to FDEP on this permit, we really need to understand a lot more and the answer to all these questions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one more question? One of the historical issues we've had with, on that site is sinkholes, particularly in the number 2 lagoon area. Have y'all been able to confirm that there are currently no sinkholes in that area? And, you know, those are Hypalon liners and those do wear out. Is the liner in good condition on that 120-acre lagoon? And have you seen any indications of sinkholes?
I haven't looked into sinkholes at all, to be honest, and I haven't assessed the quality of the liner. But those are kind of things we'll take into consideration as part of the closure of that lagoon.
Well, is there water throughout the number 2 lagoon today?
There is water in the number 2 lagoon in various cells. There's some of them that are fairly close to dry. There's not much water in it, but there's certainly in some of the cells, yes.
But at this point, we really don't know the condition of the liners, or if there could be sinkholes underneath the water.
Well, a sinkhole, I would think, would manifest itself in some sort of surface knowledge or either, you know, could be potentially obvious if you had a sinkhole under the liner.
Well, if all the water leaked out of the lagoon, it would be obvious.
Or pull the liner down somehow, yeah, sure. I don't know, but again, I haven't assessed sinkholes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments on this item?
Ask a question on something that you said, talking about groundwater testing, and that we've not found any levels that are excessive. To what extent has the groundwater test, are we talking about just on site or at distance from the main site? And my specific reason that I'm asking this is because I know that we have residents that we had city water extended to because their wells were contaminated to the point that they could not use that water. And you're telling me we're not finding any contamination when we know that there are residents that we specifically brought water from the city to them because their wells were contaminated. Am I understanding something or not understanding something?
You direct that question?
Well, you had mentioned either because you had brought it up in conversation that groundwater testing came back with no contamination.
So, you could go, no, I got it. So typically, when we do these kinds of investigations to evaluate closure of solid waste management or lagoon, we would look kind of closest to that. And you would expect to see if there was any kind of residual or any kind of contamination, you'd expect to find it nearest and at kind of highest levels close to those areas. So the fact that we haven't found it, we've also got the river not too far away downstream of that or down gradient of that. We wouldn't have any reason to believe that there would be something further away than that. I'm not aware of, I'm not fully aware of what the, you know, bringing water lines in and things like that, so I can't
So-
comment on that.
So we would assume from our testing that these people's water is now safe?
Not again, I don't know what people's water you're referring to that was contaminated, allegedly, is news. I don't.
Well, I mean, didn't we, am I incorrect? Didn't we extend the city water lines to
Yes,
residents?
they did all
There's a
that.
piece,
I'm one of those
people that got water.
Yeah, I got water.
Yeah, and also, I used to work at the plant too, maintained the well on the north side for the residents of Finn Holloway. That we supplied water for many years to the residents of the Finn Holloway residences right there at the intersection where it crosses 27 because of well contamination.
Yeah, they migrated towards the area.
And please, I'm not turn. I'm just, when I hear that we're not finding any contamination, I'm just kind of curious how hard we're looking for it.
Right, so you asked about where we're putting the wells, and we're putting them in logical places around
Then before it shuts down, then contamination shows.
the process area and around the solid waste management area, and they were already in place around looking.
So right now, we're concentric around the main plant area, but maybe we've not gotten to the outlying areas where I feel pretty confident that people can prove that they've been affected in the past just from the efforts that have been taking to accommodate them.
We'll have to get more information, understand, do you know what the contamination was?
I do not know I don't know what the contamination was, if it was color, if it was taste, but,
It was color and taste, and further down was Finn Holloway.
Well, the entity in the middle at that time paid to have those lines extended.
Paid for everything, connection, everything.
I know where I lived on Old Dixie Highway, it migrated to there. The well we had was contaminated. And there was migration.
Any other comment?
All right. Thank you guys for coming. And,
For having us.
Moving on to, our next item under constitutional officer and other governmental units. Item 14, non-res Fair Development Council and Chamber of Commerce Director to discuss proposed improvements at North National Park.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me here and allowing me to speak to you tonight. Each year we host many festivals at the park, Florida Horse Festival, up in the Pines, and the Florida Sacred Grass Festival, and hopefully more down the road. These events are not only traditions that we're proud of, but they're also very powerful economic engines for our community. They fill our hotels, our restaurants, they support our local businesses, and showcase Taylor County to thousands of visitors each year. But I've seen as these events have continued to grow, and they are growing each year, the infrastructure at Forest Capital Park simply just hasn't kept up with the pace of the growth. The electrical, the plumbing, the systems are outdated and strained by demands of larger crowds, vendors, and entertainment setups. We've reached a point where these issues are no longer just inconveniences, they're limiting our ability to effectively host these events that sustain local tourism and business. That's why I'm here tonight. I went to the TDC, and I'm proud to share that they approved allocating $200,000 from its reserve budget to invest directly towards these critical improvements. These funds will support the electrical, the water, the plumbing upgrades necessary to bring the park systems up to modern standards, ensuring that this venue remains a viable event venue and a safe venue. In addition, we've recently received a grant from Duke Energy to help fund facilitating the project. So the chamber has agreed to facilitate this entire project. We'll coordinate the planning and assessment process. As a facilitator of this, we'll serve as like the central point of contact between the county, the engineers, Duke Energy, and the contractors. We'll keep the project on track, we'll keep it within budget, and align it with what our goals are. This project isn't just about fixing pipes and wires, it's about investing in our future, protecting our economically driven festivals, and creating a better, more reliable foundation for the events that define our community identity. And what I'm asking of you guys tonight is to approve the $200,000 allocation for the upgrades that are needed out there. We've had a lot of problems over the last year. It's been a struggle to keep these festivals going.
Any questions for Don?
You said you got a $200,000 grant?
It's not a grant, it's actually tourism development reserve funds. We have some reserve funds that have, built up over the years, and we use these for, usually for improvements at the park. The stage was helped built with that, the improvements to the cook shed were the funds were used from that. But we've had to piecemeal the electrical, and the plumbing for years. We repair here, we repair there, but we've got some big, especially after the storm, the issues just multiplied. And when they did the cleanup of the park, which we very much appreciated, they actually ran over half of our vending electrical outlets. So we don't have hardly any craft vending outlets out front. So all in all, and it's hard for us to host the barbecue festival is the one that suffers the most because we have the most vendors at that one, and we have all these professional teams that travel from all over the country to compete, and we're running around having to, flip the breakers because they're blowing breakers because we just don't have the capacity to handle these big rigs anymore. And we have the longest running and the most popular barbecue festival in the entire state of Florida. So, we want to be able to host them properly and to be able to even grow them more. Because I could grow that festival to be double what it is right now if I had the capacity to support it.
You getting kickback from some of these vendors over some of the issues you've been having?
I have. I feel like it's eventually going to start hurting my attendance. With vendors and with teams, especially the barbecue. That's a huge, huge event. It brings people from all over, and they're competing for, high dollars, and it's a sanctioned Florida state barbecue competition. We're actually a world competition qualifier. We're one of the only ones in the state that qualifies these guys to go to World Food Championship events, and I want to be able to continue having it. In order for me to do that, I need to make some much needed improvements to the park.
Any comments for Don? You don't have any comments? We'll entertain a motion to approve the funding.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fegel, second by Commissioner Dent. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm working on it.
All right, we'll move on to general business. Item 15, the board to discuss potential employee incentive payments.
So we have some options, just for y'all to consider, but I know last year the decision of the board was to provide a $50 incentive payment for each employee, and the total of that for this year would be $20,278. And I have more numbers if you want to hear them. 500 for full-time, $100 for part-time and on-call seasonal would be $175,215. $750 full-time, $500 part-time, $250 seasonal would be $261,667. And 1,000, 500, and 100 would be $327,463.
I know in the last meeting we discussed, I believe Commissioner Newman had brought up the $50, continuing the $50, incentive payments. So based on staff's given information, do we have any other suggestions?
You said 50? What about the two?
So she had suggestions, 3 different options, I think 500 and 100, 500 for full-time, maybe 100 for part-time, that's about $175,000.
Right. Or, and you could cut that in half to do 250 and 50, if that's something that you wanted to consider.
And the money you received back from the constitutional officers was about $400,000. And then she had a couple other options, 750 and 250.
Right, 750, 500, and 250 was 261, 667.
500 was what?
So the 500, 100 was 175, 215. So if you wanted to look at something, half of that, it would be half of 175, 215.
Before we make a decision on this, I would love to be able to talk about 17. I mean, I'm thinking, giving them a incentive is one thing, but our employees need a raise. We have a hard time getting employees, hard time keeping employees, and if we could put the money toward a raise, for the employees, we would, it would help them in the long run, and it would help our, supervision keep help and get better help.
The only thing that I would say to that is that if you give a salary increase that's recurring, and we don't know where we're gonna be next year, we've talked a long time about where we possibly could be next year, so we need to keep that in mind and be careful of a reoccurring expense that we don't wanna have to, give somebody something and then take it back. So
Well, our employees, they got recurring expenses too, and that's what I'm thinking about, is our employees and keeping good employees. We've got a certain amount of money in reserve, and it's just sitting there, and them employees could use a raise. That's me now. And I reckon we'll get to that, but let's go ahead. I just didn't want us to say, we're gonna give them $50 or $100 and then, and miss giving them a raise.
I would just say myself that, I think everyone on this board and probably in this room would nod our heads that yes, the employees, they do need a raise. We've talked about that numerous times in numerous meetings that we do need to get some increases across the board. But just the timing, we would have to figure out where they're gonna come from next year. Cause this past year's budget, we did make it through it, and we were thankful for a pretty good sizable grant that was able to help us through our budget. That I see our next 2 years being a little bit rougher. Now, we don't know if we will get these grants, and then, if you go and give out several $100,000 worth of raises every year, then you gotta go get the money from somewhere. And then it's about you getting it from the taxpayers. On top of it, we still gotta balance the budget. So, it may be tough. Now, I'm not gonna say I'm opposed to an incentive of a $500 payment and maybe the 100 for part-time. I'm not gonna say I'm opposed to that, but, just giving a raise across the board, you just gotta be able to get it from somewhere because it's a residual recurring cost.
Mr. Chair, right here, we just approved our budget on October the 1st. Now is not the time. Who put this on the agenda? The salaries, okay, you did, Commissioner Moody. Now is not the time to discuss salary increases when we just passed our budget. That's something that we need to do during budget discussions, not right here. Not after we've approved our budget. Now, most of our employees work really hard. And I realize we have not been able to give them a raise, and we don't know when we might be able to give them a raise, to be honest. I don't wanna promise somebody something and then not be able to do it, because we don't know where we're gonna be next year. I think we could afford $50 for our employees. I'm really a little reluctant with 500, just given where we are in the community and the taxpayers and everything. I would love to give our employees that, but I think that, I'm not sure that that's what we need to do right now. I'd be more in favor of $50.
How have y'all been handling the minimum wage? So, for the last, I think we're there now, right? No, we're not quite.
Our next budget, we will have to complete.
So, but isn't everybody getting stepped up every time we go through a minimum wage?
No, sir. We
You're
did
not.
that for 2 years, I think.
Okay.
We did give across the board $1 an hour salary increases.
But it stopped.
Yes, well, last year, we didn't stop completely. Last year, the folks who were due the $1 an hour got that, and then the other employees received 50 cents an hour. This year, it was only the folks who were, the positions that were affected by the minimum wage increase.
So they have been getting raises.
Been getting a little help.
A little help, but not, yeah.
Yeah, this coming budget season, 2026, we will have to complete anyone that's under the minimum wage mandate, we will have to complete that.
So I think we're at $14.50 this year, right? $14.50. So we'll have another 50 cents an hour for those who were under the 15.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure how y'all handle it, because.
We have a little bit year over year.
As we can.
Sure.
And there have been years, in all fairness, now there have been years that employees have received an incentive and a salary increase. So I think did we do that? Did the board approve that 2 years? Do you remember?
I'd have to look back and see. I'm not sure.
So, any other discussion on the employee incentive payments? We want to just continue with the $50, or do we want to make another suggestion?
Let's go up to 100.
At least give them enough they can fill the tank up on the truck.
How much would $100 equate to? That was 20 before, so I guess it's gonna be 40,000. I'll go with 100.
And that would be all employees, whether they're full-time, part-time, seasonal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give everybody $100.
Do we need a motion to approve it?
I'm gonna,
Need a motion to approve $100. I think we got a motion by Commissioner Dempsey. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moody. All in favor?
Thank you, I'm sure they'll appreciate it.
All right, we're going to item 16. The board to discuss speed humps at the end of the County Road 14. That's the Indian River. It's agendaed by myself, Mr. English. So I just wanted to bring this, over the last couple of years, I've got call after call from those citizens to send deputies down. Of course, we send a deputy down, and yeah, they wrote some tickets, made some people mad, but that seems to be temporary. They're visible, and they go away, and then guess what? The calls come back in, people still speeding through there in that 25 mile/hour zone. And, we call deputies back down there, they go, and it's just the same thing, they may slow down for a little bit. And then, they're right back to, calls again, we've asked, to send deputies down there, last few months, a couple of times, and really, we're not getting the deputy even sent down there anymore, so we're at the point to help that bunch slow. I mean, it's a golf cart community just like anywhere else, and, these people are driving from the 25 mile/hour zone, they're driving 50 miles an hour right on by that store in there. So for me, and the sheriff really and truly shouldn't have to sit there and send deputies just to sit there. to man, I mean, it's kinda out of, the place is out of sight, out of mind. So, to have that community slow the traffic down coming in, that I, put this item on to get the field of the board to, install speed humps at this location.
Well, there's a couple of things that you need to take into consideration. Once you do this, but let me just preface that by saying that I get calls all the time for every road in my district, just about, for people speeding. And so I'm sure all of y'all do. So if you do it for one, you're gonna have to do it for many, many, many more. I don't know what the cost of that is. And then the other thing is, and I'm assuming that it's still the same way, but you have to have a certain percentage of the people that live there to agree. I don't know if it's 75% of the people or 100% have to say, yes, we want speed humps, because a lot of people want them, but you'll find out in neighborhoods, people will tell you, I do not want speed humps, I don't want that.
Well, I've spoken to many of them down there, and I think most of them, I mean, I'm not spoken to all of them, but everyone that I've spoken to has, wish list, over time was for these speed humps to.
Now, my concern is the precedent that was set. If we do it for there, I've got about 15 roads I want to do it on.
That's, and they would actually meet the criteria of,
Whatever the criteria is.
that's, under, I guess it would be anything under 40 miles an hour.
So I did attach a draft policy. Now, and Kenneth, I think I asked you, I don't see where this draft was actually approved by the board, right? So we have a draft policy that, you may choose to adopt and follow. And it is a very specific policy, and it does actually, this road, County Road 14 would be ineligible because it's a collector road, but my question is, if the speed humps were only installed in a very specific area at the end of that road, would that change the eligibility?
Inside 25 miles long.
The problem is your 25 mile per hour zone is actually like 1.2 miles north of where the residential congestion is. You're building intolerance to people because when they get there and they see the speed going from 55 down to 25, there's nothing there geometrically or development wise that suggests I need to be slowing down because something's approaching. Truthfully, that 25 mile per hour zone ought to be down there about where the RV park is. And decelerating the travelers as they come down to that point, in my opinion, I believe you would encourage more conformance to the speed limits that are there. Should there be speed humps on that road? The policy that we discussed back in 2011, I think it was, says no to collector roads. It's just not supposed to happen. It's not supposed to be on the sole access route. Both those things are what Econfina or County Road 14 are. Can you do it down there at the point to where you're getting closer to, I just remember where the old restaurant is. Yes, probably so, but at that point, are you really doing anything? So the policy that was put together back then, it has a lot of merits. It is a criteria that goes through there the way Ms. Fiegel was remembering it. It takes 66% of the affected individuals, those residents along there, to agree to it. It says that no less than 51% have to be residential properties. It's not even business type properties. So, and if you were to do it along the sole access route, it requires that you get emergency services to also agree to that, that being your fire, medical, and law enforcement. So it's more than just, hey, I'd like to have this, people are speeding. We checked the speed down there, I think it was in February or so of 2024. We checked it there at the south end, about by the RV park, and then further to the north about where the 25 mile per hour starts. And the 85th percentile speed was ranging anywhere between 45 and 55, depending on which direction they were going. So yeah, they are traveling faster than you would hope, but they're traveling just like they are on an open road. Simply because we move a sign up there and say, we want to lower it so a golf cart can legally get on this road and these individuals access their property. That's well beyond the congested area. People aren't going to pay attention to it. I mean, they're not going to, outside of a law enforcement activity.
And then there was some consideration of the cost. So Kenneth, I believe you said just to have a contractor,
That was back in 2011, we put together, we looked at the cost associated with a single speed hump as being around $4,000. Today, for a paving crew, if we didn't do this in-house and you elected to contract this, usually off the cuff, a paving crew to show up is $5,000 to mobilize them before they just do any work. So usually if you're going to do this kind of thing, it is typically integrated into the roadway reconstruction, so it's less of a cost. But if you'll look at the policy, it puts that cost on the people who are asking for it. There is latitude that the individual commissioner in that district can get the board's blessing to use their funds to do that. And there is also the ultimate option that says the board collectively could agree to pay for it themselves. I would suggest that perhaps it would be, for consistency's sake, review the policy. If you think that it still continues to have merit since that time, adopt the policy, and then whatever meets the policy meets it, and if it doesn't, it just doesn't.
and then there's also lighting and signage requirements. Okay. And that's something that would have to be, well, the signage wouldn't be so bad, but the
Advanced warning signage, pavement markings, the actual physical materials, maintenance of traffic, testing, all of that. Actually, the policy even goes into bid document preparation and advertisement. I mean, it covers everything that says this truly shouldn't be subsidized by everybody else. It should be paid for by or borne by the people who are getting the benefit of it. It's a lot like an MSBU.
So we would need to really adopt this policy, even if we were gonna do it anywhere else, at some point in time. Even if we didn't do it here, but if we were gonna do it somewhere else, we would just about need to adopt this policy anyway, right?
I think there's a lot of responsibility and consistency if you were to adopt the policy, and then when you receive the request from an individual community, if it's a policy, you consider it. If it doesn't, then you're not able to.
But as far as this particular community, you think that it would be within the policy that this particular residential area would or would not fit the policy, the present policy?
I think the way the policy is written today, you would, with the blessing of emergency services and the blessing of this board, about where maybe the fire department is down there, is a place that you could be reasonable to say that we're getting into a congested area and we should be decelerating if we believe we have a repetitive speeding issue that's creating a public
I
risk.
think that's more of the idea of when you start getting into that congested area, that's where the issue ends up lying, is from that, I can't think of the road there to the left that goes in there, but from that point on, it's pretty well, that's where the issue lies, is when you get in there closer to the store.
Yes, sir, and I remember the minutes and some of the information that I gave to the county administrator that, and it may have actually been Mr. Moody, that raised a question to Conrad about the potential liability if we were to put these things on our streets. And at that time, Conrad was suggesting that, okay, well, I'll reach out to our insurance carrier to make sure that we aren't creating an additional issue here.
Same thing this time.
I'm sorry.
Also, do you know about rumble strips?
Yep. They drive 70 miles an hour across them.
Pardon?
I said they drive 70 across them.
I don't know, but, I go to Madison a lot, and when you turn off 14, you go the back way into Madison, right there, if you're going toward Perry on the south side of the road, there are rumble strips before the stop sign. You know, they have a stop sign and they have a parking lot and all that stuff. Of course, you know, I'm always accused of only going 47 miles an hour by everybody, so, but I do notice the rumble strips. They make a good deal of noise. They do. I just see somebody going too fast and hitting a speed bump, and, you know, one tearing up their car, or two, you know, having an accident, as opposed, you know, of hitting us.
So maybe the rumble strips, I mean, would caution people to slow down. I mean, it may, you jar the vehicle.
Well, the rumble strip's not gonna make you, you know, go off the road, you know.
Yeah, I know what they are, I just, I mean, what would our criteria be on the rumble strips? That would just, I mean, that's just gonna caution people, they do need to slow down in that zone.
Yes, sir, and where we would put them typically would be at the point that you are reducing your speed from the open highway to alert you to you're going into a reduced speed zone, that being the 25 mile per hour. That doesn't say that we couldn't put a second set just immediately north of the RV park to either provide additional response back to the drivers that, hey, you're hitting a congested area. We could, there's actually an MUTCD sign that says entering a congested area. We could put that in addition to it.
Right.
Or, you know, reposition your 25 mile per hour zone.
Yeah.
But Kenneth, I think the concern would be, how long is that 25 mile per hour?
It's just under 1.3 miles north of.
Right. So that would give people a lot of time to accelerate, so you would almost need a second set.
Yeah.
To
The
get.
zone where it should be.
Yeah, it's, well, I think the 25 mile hour zone was probably put just north of the first RV park on the left. In that words.
RV park there that is right, sitting immediately on the north side of the first road to the left that you referred to earlier. The 25 mile per hour zone starts 1.3 miles north of there.
Okay.
And by that time, you better believe they're frustrated. Why am I going 25 miles per hour out here in this open road?
And they'll speed back up.
Yes, ma'am.
The same thing, Steve, actually, the roll off sign.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Absolutely. And on the other side at JL Gibson, I mean, both of them, you know, they're not giving you the driver feedback that I should be going slow.
Yeah. I'm just saying the same thing with us, we have to do the roll off sign just for a golf.
Yes, sir.
I mean, so can we maybe look at the cost on rumble strips and just see what cost would be there? I mean, what would it take to move that sign up, if we needed to move that 25 mile an hour sign up?
I think it's an ordinance because you're a resolution or an ordinance, whichever Conrad can tell you for your speed limit.
It's not gonna make sense to put a rumble strip a mile up the road from where people really need to slow down.
Yeah, you set speed limits, I think, by resolution, so you'd have to, isn't that right, Conrad? Anyway, it's a regulatory speed limit, so you gotta move it.
Bring back the cost of the rumble strips and then we can look at it from that, if that's okay with the board. Sure. All right, so, finish there. Do we want to do item 17? Did you have any more you want to discuss on item 17?
Not really, we don't feel that.
Okay. All right. So then we'll take it.
I'd like to say one thing though, your employees are what makes a company run, and this is a company, any way you figure. If you look out for your employees, they'll look out for you, and that's the backbone of the operation, and we got a bunch of employees, and we need to do whatever it takes to give them as much money as we can, because the city pays their same, people that does the same thing more money. Sheriff's Department gets less money than the city police. The utility bunch for the city makes more than our utility bunch. That's just, the garbage people make more money in the city than they do in the county, and I want to let's work on that to get them more money.
Yeah, and that goes back to the firefighters. Remember, I brought that up, and we did a comparison with all the other counties, and
Right.
our firefighters are lower
That's
than
exactly
anybody,
right.
even right here in town. So, yeah, I mean, if whatever we can do and we can afford, I'm all for it.
Well, with the reserve money we've got, that will carry us through several more years. I feel like now's the time to give our employees a raise. They need it bad. I mean, it would help. All the department heads would have a lot less hassle and everything. I mean, that's just, I work for a lot of companies. I've seen a lot of things go on. And the reason we didn't give the firemen, because it was wanting to give just the firemen a raise. You can't do that. You got to give everybody a raise when you give raises to an operation.
I don't know when we'll be able to afford that, but we can look at it.
Right.
We take that 5
All right,
minutes.
we'll take 5, and then we'll start back on item 18 under county staff items.
For the next 3 weeks. Apparently had too much time off. Now, everything hurts sitting here. John, how are you?
I was gonna ask if you wanted those. I mean, I can email it to you. We need to do jumping jacks or something. Well, no, not jumping jacks. Never mind, that was silly. So what I was thinking.
Do like them casinos do and just pump in oxygen.
We'll review them under county staff item 18. The board to consider approval to change order number 2 in the amount of $38,400 to the contract for demolition and new construction work through the HHRP program for the home of Christine and Robert Hugger for a stem wall foundation and larger septic tank and drain field. Presented by Melanie Cox, grant writer. Melanie?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can.
Okay, this is just for, a change order due to the home being in a floodplain and, needing a larger septic area. That's what the change order is for.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
And we've got funding, to cover that.
Yes, we do. Yes, we have sufficient funding for that and for the next item on the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion Siegel to approve, second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor? Aye. All right, item 19, the board to consider approval to change order number 1 in the amount of $50,300 to the contract for demolition and new construction work through the HHRP program for the home of Sharon Phelps for a stem wall foundation, larger septic tank and drain field, lift station tank, and pump and handicap ramp, presented by Melanie Cox, grant writer.
It is the same situation in this case. It is a floodplain area. We need to install a lift station, tanker pump, and a handicap accessible ramp, and we do have sufficient funding.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Siegel to approve, with a second. Second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor? Aye. All right, item 20, the board to consider approval of the Florida House and Florida Senate local funding initiative request budget appropriations for fiscal year 2026 and 2027, agenda by Melanie Cox, grant writer.
As you know, we discussed the list at a meeting back in November. However, we submitted an application for the Taylor County Public Safety Complex in the amount of $10 million. Heat Beach Fire Station in the amount of $1 million. Davy Grove Fire Rescue in the amount of $1 million. Forest Capital Park and Ag Center in the amount of $1.2 million. The courthouse, AU, and ductwork in the amount of $800,000. As you know, we received partial funding for that last fiscal year. Taylor County Animal Shelter in the amount of $750,000. Taylor County Fire Rescue Primary Station in the amount of $2 million. Taylor County Sports Complex Lighting Project in the amount of $750 million. And then the top of the list that you received was Taylor County Center Project in the amount of $1.2 million. And that was to replace funding that we lost from FDOT for the gas tax, for the state taking away the gas tax revenue. So that was $1.2 million. As you know, our appropriations request, we do not submit a match other than what we have received in grant funding, no match from the county.
Okay.
And if I could add to that now, on the Taylor County Courthouse air handler and duct, I actually placed that as the #1 priority. I wanted to make the board aware of that, only because it was the #1 priority last year. We received half of the funding. So if you don't want that to be #1, I can edit the list and send it back.
I leave it.
Okay, but I did want to bring that to your attention. Okay.
Any questions, discussion from the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Siegel to approve, you have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the item.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do want to let y'all know that we have received approval on the additional funding for Hodges Park to restore out the additional $800,000. We received word last week, so we can start getting that project underway with the design build document. And we should have the revised grant agreement on the next agenda. So that is very, very good news for us on Hodges Park. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you.
Item 21, the board to consider approval of FDOT supplemental agreement #1 for the proposed widening resurfacing of Ash Street and to consider adoption of a resolution authorizing the chairperson to accept the agreement on behalf of the BOCC.
So the next four actually are all dealing with DOT agreements in one shape or fashion. And they are basically taking existing terms of the agreements and extending those to give some additional time to either complete construction or finish the design and or permitting. They all require a resolution, of course, in order to allow the chairman to act on behalf of the board.
Do we have a resolution? We want to read the resolution by title only?
Yes.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Field, second by Commissioner Dance. Read the resolution by title only. All in favor?
Aye.
Bishop.
Yes, sir. Ash Street widening, resurfacing, scope project supplemental agreement number 1, signature authorization, funding agreement, time extension.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the resolution.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Field.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moody. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we need a motion to approve the agreement.
I move.
Motion by Commissioner Dent, second by Commissioner Field. All in favor?
Aye. March, did you say on this?
Yes, ma'am, because what I am very hopeful for is, you recall at your last meeting, we did the termination of the agreement on the contractor's road. Well, that frees up the money, so I forwarded that to them this morning. So my hope is they turn around and say, okay, well, here we're trying to reallocate this funding in order to do this. What they may wind up doing is telling us, okay, go out for bids, and then they see your actual shortfall, and they'll fund that shortfall. So yes, fingers crossed, March is the time.
Thank you.
All right, item 22, the board to consider approval of FDOT supplemental agreement number 4 for the proposed widening, resurfacing of First Avenue South, and to consider adoption of a resolution authorizing the chairperson to accept the agreement on behalf of the BOCC.
Do you need a,
Same
Same.
scenario, we do have a resolution. Do we want to read the resolution by title only?
can, go
Is
ahead.
that a motion?
Yeah.
Motion by Commissioner Dent, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moody to read the resolution by title only. All in favor?
Aye.
First Avenue South widening, resurfacing scope, CIGP, I don't know how you pronounce that.
Yeah, it's an acronym.
Project supplemental agreement number 4, signature authorization, funding agreement, time extension.
You say CP.
Oh, okay. I think it's just better just to go ahead and call it what it is.
Community Incentive Grant Program.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll have a motion to adopt the resolution.
Move.
Motion by Commissioner Dent. Second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor? Aye. All right, we'll need a motion to approve the agreement.
Drop.
Motion by Commissioner Dent, do we have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Moody, all in favor? All right, item 23, the board to consider approval of FDOT supplemental agreement number 3 for the proposed widening, resurfacing of Cedar Island Road, and to consider adoption of a resolution authorizing the chairperson to accept the agreement on behalf of the BOCC. So, same scenario, just we're talking about Cedar Island Road. We have a resolution. Do we want to read the resolution by title only? Motion.
Second.
By Commissioner Fiegel with a second by Commissioner Dent. All in favor?
Aye.
Right, Mr. Bishop.
Cedar Island Road widenings, resurfacing scrap project supplemental agreement number 3, signature authorization, funding agreement, time extension.
Entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
Motion.
By Commissioner Fiegel. Second by Commissioner Dent. All in favor? Aye. All right, we need a motion to approve the agreement.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fiegel. Second by Commissioner Moody. All in favor? Right. Item 24, the board to consider approval of FDOT supplemental agreement number 2 for the proposed widening, resurfacing of McDaniel Road, and to consider adoption of a resolution authorizing the chairperson to accept the agreement on behalf of the BOCC.
Move.
Same scenario, talking about McDaniel Road, we have a resolution. We got a motion by Commissioner Dent to read the resolution by title only. Second by Commissioner Fiegel, all in favor?
Yeah.
McDaniel Road widening, resurfacing scope project supplemental agreement number 2, signature authorization, funding agreement, time extension.
All right, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Moody, second by Commissioner Fiegel, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll need a motion to approve the agreement.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fiegel, second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good job. Thanks, sir. Anything else, Mr.? All right, county attorney items, we'll go to item 25, the county attorney to discuss proposed settlement agreement for Blumenstein versus Taylor County.
Yes, sir. We got a letter, well, Ms. Pemberton got a letter from the lawyer that's representing, Taylor County, who's representing Taylor County and the insurance company. And he wrote a letter, stating that they've negotiated and that the plaintiff, is a wrongful death case where, Mr. Blumenstein was killed and Mr. Miller was driving his vehicle, but he was going to report on a fire. And the recommendation is that they've agreed, meaning the plaintiff, to accept $50,000. And in reviewing the letter and reviewing some of the facts of it, the attorney that's representing us recommends that y'all agree to that. The insurance is going to pay it anyway, you know, as a practical matter. I mean, like I said, when you have a wrongful death case, there's going to be what's called comparative negligence. And if you have a death and the person that was driving for Taylor County is, say, 20% negligent, and they say, well, the death is worth a whole lot more than $50,000, and you could end up paying more than the $50,000. Of course, 76828, the waiver of sovereign immunity, has a cap at $200,000, but a jury can come back more than that, and then, of course, and there's what's called a claims bill. If they get more than that, it can go for the legislature. So our attorney that represents the insurance company, says they've done a lot of extensive discovery, completed mediation, and got them down to 50, and his recommendation is to tell the insurance company, go ahead.
You need a motion? Motion to approve the 50,000?
Second. Motion by Commissioner Fiegel.
Roll call.
Second by Commissioner Moody, with a roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Amos,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman is absent, Commissioner Fiegel,
Yes.
and Commissioner Dents.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That does that one, yes.
All right, we'll go to county administrator items. The board to consider approval of draft request qualifications for engineering services and advertisement presented by the county administrator.
So as you know, Mr. Dudley has been working with us for quite some time, and we've known that his retirement was impending, and he has indicated that most likely at the end of December, he would like to start utilizing his vacation time at the very least. So we obviously need to start searching for a contract to continue these services. Obviously, we would like to hire an employee to, I'm not even going to say to take his place, but to assume some of these tasks, but we have not been successful. The recruiting agency has not been successful. So at the very least, it's my opinion that to continue these operations, we need to move forward with a request for qualifications for continuing services for engineering. We do have a contract or contracts in place for design, survey, and CEI. I don't know that our existing contract would cover project management. I don't think our contract is very specific. So, and we really don't want overlap in those projects, but, you know, we've got to have someone to continue these projects on our behalf. I'm not going to say he's replaceable because it's going to leave a huge hole in our organization, but we have to start looking for a method to replace some of these services.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Siegel to approve. Do you have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Dent. All in favor?
Are you sure, Kenneth, that you want
He's been very gracious.
to? Wait till I see him walk out the door with all this stuff before I leave.
Just don't hire nobody this day.
I think I'm getting all this stuff in order.
Oh, just kidding. All right, we'll move on to item 27. The board to consider approval of draft contract amendment with Century Ambulance Services in order to end 911 services provided by Century Ambulance on 12/1/25 approved by the county administrator.
So items 27, 28, 29, or 30, and 30 are all related to our emergency management, our EMS contract. So and we've got representatives from Century and Survival Flight, but to give you a summary of what's happening, Century's contract is due to end the end of December, and Century's is due to begin the 1st of January. They are in mutual agreement that they would like to move that date to end, for Century to end basically today, December 1st, and Survival Flight to resume our 911 operations December 2nd. And then, so in order to accomplish that, there are multiple contract amendments that need to be approved by the board. Do y'all want to speak to that before?
I can answer any questions. We're ready to go. We've got everything in place. We've worked really hard the last 2 months to get everybody onboarded and to get equipment ready. And Century's been more than accommodating on everything that we needed to do. And it's not a benefit to Survival Flight. It's a good faith gesture that we're going to do the right thing by Taylor County. So we're ready to take the reins if you guys will approve.
Do you have adequate staff right now?
Yes, ma'am. So I have a full schedule. So all my shifts are filled. As far as staffing levels goes, we're about at 90%. And the reason for that is because we don't put bodies in seats. We don't want to bring on any problems. But we've got that extra 10% is set to onboard the 15th of this month. But we do have all the shifts are filled, and we'll make sure those stay filled.
Okay, let me ask you another question. Are you retaining anyone from Century?
Yes, ma'am. We're retaining the majority of the staff. And the ones that didn't get retained left voluntarily.
I say we go ahead.
Just before you,
Charlie
Mayman.
Sir, you can.
Yeah, Charlie Mayman on behalf of Century. We just wanted to say how much we've appreciated the opportunity to serve Taylor County. Survival Flight is an excellent organization, and just to be clear, the transition would occur at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, there's nothing else, we'll take a motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion and a second to approve item 27, all in favor? All right.
So item 28 is to amend the contractual agreement with Survival Flight in order to change effective date to December 2nd and to add a bond requirement because that was somehow left out of the contract. So, yes, sir.
Wait a minute. I did both of these agreements. Number one, the agreement for ambulance and emergency and non-emergency medical service dated December 31st, 2020, is hereby terminated by mutual agreement as of December the 1st of 2025. And then I put in secondly, I put in it that the amendment to terminate earlier was ratified by the Board of County Commissioners of Taylor County on December 1, 2025, and authorize the chairperson of the Board of County Commissioners to execute the amendment terminating the above mentioned agreement. And I put that in there because I wanted y'all to do a vote on it, on that by a roll call vote, have a motion and a roll call vote on that, on this first amendment with regard to the termination of Century. Everybody understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So we need to change the date from December 1st to December 2nd.
Well, you can interline it on the motion and just put, on the amendment, and just put December 2nd on that.
Okay.
Because I did it, like you said, December 1st.
You did. Thank you.
All right,
He's
so,
right.
with a roll call here,
Yes, you need a motion
we'll
to,
obtain a motion.
Motion.
Second by Commissioner Dents, so we'll do a roll call.
All right, Commissioner English,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Fegel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dents, and that was item 27, just to be clear.
that's correct, yes, sir.
All right.
And then if you go to 28. Let's see, that plus, I did a resolution, I mean, a contract on that. If I may,
Go ahead.
it's an amendment to agreement for ambulance and emergency and non-emergency medical services. This is agreement for ambulance, emergency, and non-emergency medical services dated September 10th, 2025 is hereby amended and provides that Survival Flight EMS Services LLC for Taylor County, Florida shall commence on December 2nd. We need to interline that, 2025, instead of January 1st of 2026. In addition, we put in that Survival shall present a bond for $250,000. I think if you said that that wasn't put in there, it is. It's in the agreement you were sent it.
So the original agreement, it was not included.
Yeah,
So
but
you
it's
put
in
it
this
in
one,
the-
the one
Yes,
that
sir,
you
that's
asked
what
me
I
to
said.
do.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And they can do it by a performance bond, a letter of credit, or cash. You know?
Cash.
Cash, yeah. Anyway, you need if you agree with this, then you need a motion to sign the agreement, and there'll be, and if you do, there'd be a roll call vote.
Good. There's no questions, obtain a motion. I think we got a motion by Commissioner Dents.
Yep.
Second by Commissioner Moody, the roll call.
Commissioner English,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Fegel,
Yes.
and Commissioner Dents. Commissioner Moody back.
Got item 29. Board consider approval of draft lease agreement with Survival Flight Incorporated for the Steve Mansion Firehouse location, Judge by the Administrator.
The lease agreement is attached to that. There may be some, you need to fill in some of the blanks on that lease agreement with regard to the term and those things. You'll fill that in. And if you agree to go ahead and lease it, just like pursuant to Taylor County leasing it to Survival, you need a motion to execute the commercial building lease, and it would be by roll call also. And it's $400 a month. That's right. They'll be paying.
All right. No questions, obtain a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fegel, second by Commissioner Moody, roll call.
Commissioner English,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Fegel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dents,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody.
I want to just verify something. We don't have to worry with IFTs anymore. The hospital takes care of that. Hallelujah.
I mean, Charlie, y'all are continuing the IFT services.
Absolutely.
Good, item 30.
What's your name?
Charles Barnard.
Barnard?
Barnard.
You the head You head chief here in Perry?
Sir,
You're the chief in Perry?
in the area, yes, sir.
Okay.
Item 30, the board to consider approval of certificate of public convenience and necessity for Survival Flight LLC for countywide EMS service.
I didn't do this one.
No, we did not. So this would be to basically reassign the COPCN from Century to Survival Flight, and is required by the Department of Health. And the date on this, we will change to December 2nd.
Does everybody want to do it this cattywampus way?
That's the way we've always done them.
Okay.
Every COPCN I've ever seen has been landscape, but we can change it if it's bothers
No,
you.
it's just different. You know, I'm old, I like to do things the way we used to do it.
Okay. You want to roll call on this one, Mr. Bishop?
Sir?
You want to roll call on this one?
Yes, sir.
All right, any questions from the board?
I move we do roll call.
Motion to approve, second by Commissioner Flegel, roll call.
Commissioner English,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Fegel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dents.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Newman is absent.
All right. Very good. All right, we'll move on to our comments and concerns from the public for non-agenda items. Non-agenda items. You want to lie? All right. You got board informational items, Mr. Fegel?
Yes, I don't know, Conrad, if it's you or if it's LaWanda, but I'd like for us to go ahead and check with the state ASAP to see if, GP is not in compliance with state laws right now with concerning, you know, the,
With DEP?
yeah.
Well, you know, remember we got that, you need to have that letter, for the December 11th, LaWanda meeting, the letter that they sent, that they weren't in compliance with the, sludge. If you recall that part of that, I think that letter needs to be on, each commissioner's, desk for the meeting on December 11th.
So I believe we got a response, the day after that meeting, but I'll make sure we have both.
Okay, well, anyway, there were two things that they hadn't done, according to FDEP. You remember that letter that we all had at our last meeting?
Two things were incomplete or something.
Yeah, they hadn't completed two. So that question needs to be asked on December 11th
I
at the
think I
meeting.
sent that response out, but I'll double check.
That's all.
Mr. Dix?
Thank everybody for participating, doing what you do. And we're getting good at it too, about 9 o'clock. A little bit longer than you. Other than that, we gonna meet again when?
The 11th and the 16th.
That's the public hearing, and the 15th is the second meeting of the month.
The 11th is the public hearing, yes, and then the 16th is the second meeting.
Okay. Good. No problem.
All right. Second up, entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Fegel, second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Do you want me to ask a question?